What's going on, man?
Morning.
Morning.
Y'all working hard or hardly working this morning?
I reckon the whole thing here.
I
Hey, y'all got me?
reckon he's over yonder somewhere.
Hey, y'all got me?
Yeah, I got you.
I.
Bro,
Hey,
what
Dre,
is
you
it?
see that? You see that little vehicle right there,
Yeah, what is that?
bro?
TV.
That is the side by side that I want.
Bro, can you make your picture bigger, please?
Let me see.
You gonna mount paintball turrets to the top of it?
Paintball turds to the. That's an actual car, bro. That's not a side by side.
No, it's a side by side. It's made to look like a Humvee, basically. Like matter of fact, it's all metal. Like there's no plastic or anything on it. And that's the one that I was gonna get, but I'm married, so
Yeah.
I got the one that I have. First of all, the one that I have is amazing, dude. It's really it's it's not
Oh,
top of the
I,
line, but it's right there.
I like the one you got. Like that's all I need, really and truly. That's more
Well, I
than what
mean,
I
but
need.
but bro, but it has the one that I have has everything on it. It's got winches on it. It's got everything on it. Like it's some people will say that it's not top of the line because it doesn't go 75 miles an hour. But bro, it almost goes 50. Like I don't need it to go I don't need it to go 75 miles an hour.
Yeah, if you're in the backwoods riding through the mud holes and up and down hill, you don't need 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, so I understand people want to use it on their property and then like, they put license plates on it to use it on the road if they live in a country like where I'm at. You can I'm in the country and I mean, well, you're not supposed to, but you can drive it down the road. I got buddies that live up and down this road up here, but that thing right there, bro, that thing is almost $40,000 for the side by side you see. And this place had one of them. It was about maybe an hour from where I'm at. So I went up there and looked at it. I was like, man, dude, thing is
Does it
so
come
neat.
with
It even,
AC?
yeah, they got
Oh,
AC in
okay.
them. You can roll up the window. I mean, not roll them up, but like kind of.
Bro,
Anyway,
that's a
it's hard to,
car, bro.
huh?
That's a car. It got
Well, I
AC,
mean,
bro. It's a car.
no, listen. In the back, bro, the back they have a swivel seat. You can't see the hatch. I mean, it literally has like the same type of bed that a Humvee has. It looks exactly the same. Anyway, there's a swivel seat in there or a swivel pole. It's a swivel pole, and you can put a one-seater, two-seater, three-seater, or a four-seater in that pole, bro, and it lifts up above the top of the side by side, like it's up there. So
Oh,
you
so
can,
it's like a safari vehicle's thing,
yeah,
whatever you out there chasing down them hogs with it.
yeah, bro. I'm telling you, it's amazing. And I test. They had an area out there where you could test drive it. Hold on a second. Somebody's trying to. Bruh, bruh. Yeah, so they got an area where you could test
Oh,
drive it.
AJ, that thing probably has a radio, satellite phone, and all, bro. That's made for Iraq, not Texas.
No, it's made for Texas. Texas, it's his own sovereign country.
You keep believing that if you want to.
Keep keep believing it. It's already true, really. But anyway, dude, I went to go test this thing out, and they had, like whoop-de-doos, like for dirt bikes, but it was for this thing, so they weren't. The angle wasn't so high, but bro, the suspension on this thing, man. Oh man, I almost got it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, nah. I think Mackenzie would have she would have unalived you.
Well, yeah, probably. Yeah, it's very possible. Yeah. So she's like, "Oh, you like that one?" I'm like, yeah. She's like, "All right. What other one do you like?" I was like, "Well, I kind of like this one, like that." "Oh, okay. You like that's really neat." About a week later, she's like, "Hey, look what you got." And I was like, "Oh, it's not the Humvee Desert. Oh, okay. Cool." Oh man, like all right.
Bro, you funny.
Yeah, but hey, so Dre, bro, how did the sermon go, bro?
It was great, man. It was
Yeah,
real good.
how'd you start it off? What'd you say?
I actually started off from Psalm 22.
Did you?
Um, yeah, so I wanted to kind of expose um, as like Christ being like love writing this message, you know, of Psalms 22, and I kind of focused on the worm a little bit, and then the worm is the crimson worm, which actually attaches itself to the wood, and then it releases the dye, and all this stuff. So the metaphor there, the shadow of Christ, and why David uses the worm, and then when I had to explain that, at that point I was able to kind of go forth with explaining how the rod is Christ and why the worm is on the wood. It only attaches itself to wood, and then I kind of went through the rods, and then at that point it was like game over. They
Yeah.
saw it. Yeah.
What scriptures did you use to talk about the rod? Like which ones
Hon-
did you go over?
Honestly, I just went to David, bro. I went to David when he grabbed the rod before seeing Goliath, and nobody touches it. Oh my
Is
goodness!
that where you started?
No, I started in Psalms 22 because David wrote Psalms 22, and I was trying to
No, I'm
explain how
saying
he.
is that where you started with the rod?
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, listen, I didn't have all day. It's not like we have a 3 hour live at church, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
but I
Yeah,
just
right,
went
right.
there and I just kind of exposed how people don't see that, and then because David wrote Psalms 22, David grabbed the rod, David explained the worm, David is love, and the funny thing is like kind of at the end of that David in First Samuel 17 when they say like who are you, he's like I'm the son of Jesse, David, and
Yeah.
Jesse means be or to be, and his name is love, and it's like love killed the you know
Yeah.
the it's just too good, bro. I was geeking out, bro. I was kind of like talking to myself. I forgot there was people watching me.
You're like, oh, there's other people here. Ah,
Yeah,
okay, hello.
it was just too good, man. Like and even like when he says the rod and thy staff they comfort me. I don't think it's a coincidence that a cross has two different sticks to make a cross, and the rod is smaller than the staff. And if you put them together, it's actually a cross. A rod
Yeah,
and a staff together is a cross.
yeah. Hmm.
And I was like, David, it just was a real epiphany for me. Like, David really had the revelation of Jesus. Like, he got it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. No, he did. That's why he wrote what he wrote. The problem is nobody cares to ask why he wrote what he wrote. Nobody cares. They're like, David wrote it. That's all I need to know. And it's like, bro, if you knew why he wrote it, you would want to know more. Like,
oh, 100%.
what do you mean?
Oh, yeah. I really started geeking out, man. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I really started geeking out. And I started going through the rods, and then I was just like, oh my God, like, this can be preached all day long. So I dropped little other stuff in there too, like stuff that we talk about. So, and then I was going into the seed because I was trying to. At that point, it was like now you could kind of understand the seed and the bitter water turn sweet because of the rod. It's no coincidence that he is the tree of life. It's no coincidence that we are trees that bear fruit. It's no coincidence that he is the rod. It's no coincidence that he told Moses, "Take this rod, and it shall do the signs." And then I was like, now you kind of understand going into the seed at that point. And my dad's like, can you come back next week and finish? I was like, no. I'm going out of town.
Is there a way we could turn this into like, like what do you call it?
Descale
Like
life?
No. Where you do like multiple, like
a series.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exactly what he said. He needs
yeah, we could do this a series. Hey, you should have said, Dad, if we start this series, it will never end.
Oh yeah, like I told him, I was like, listen, I'll come back, but and the people, like, that's the thing, like when it wasn't no jumping, hollering, screaming. I don't do all that to begin with, and then I don't really like. I used to do altar calls all the time, and I'm like, I don't even do altar calls, bro. If you got the message, you don't even need an altar call. You got it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the
so
altar calls. Like, one day we probably should talk about altar call, like to kind of pinpoint like the purpose of them, why they happen, but man, I'll tell you, there's a lot of things people just run with it. And like, if you don't do it, I mean, there's at least every week, at least 2 or 3 people that say, "Hi, how come y'all don't pray before the, like to open the show? And how come you don't pray to close the show?" And I was like, I said, "Do you mean to call you when I'm praying or what?" I don't understand. Like, they're like, "No, but you need to do it when you," and I'm like, man, dude, I'm like, wow. I was like, so.
Well, go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just saying, and I said, let me ask you this. Are you saying that if I don't pray before the show where everyone can hear it, like God's not going to be part of the show? Like, is that what you're saying? Well, and they don't know how to answer. And then this other dude, he's got like these like clever answers, like, well, the devil can come and slip in. And I'm like, the devil can come but if I pray, the devil can't come and slip in. Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, brother, listen, guys, y'all have been doing things based on like culture for so long that you're missing the entire picture. God loves me and everybody in the live more than you love everybody in the live. So in my heart, he's already here. I don't have to pray him in and somehow do some sort of like burnt incense to get him to, to see my fragrance flying in the air. Like, bro, like, it's crazy, man. What y'all are doing is crazy. I'm sorry. I was like, when I pray, I'm not going to call you and let you know when I'm praying. That's none of your business. That's between me and him. And, this lady was like, well, okay. Well, how long? I could just hear the way she's like, so it's like, well, how many hours a week or day do you pray? And I'm like, how many hours do I pray? I'm like, dude, that's like the most carnal question that you can ask somebody. That's none of your business how long somebody prays. We've gotten to a point where we think that because we're Christians or, brothers and sisters in Christ, that there's no boundaries and I can just hop up in your house and ask you and treat you however I want. I mean, some of these people, it just boggles my mind. I don't even think some of them, and I am being very specific about who I'm talking about, it's hard for me to believe that they even have friends, because there's no way that you treat people like this. Like, you could just ask and do whatever you want to them and it should be okay. Listen, I say this all the time. You're not going to be my friend in 5 minutes. Okay. I'm not a cheap date. I don't know how else to express that. And you should be the same way. You don't just let anybody into your life. I mean, this is a fallen world we live in. Don't be ridiculous. But what, Trot, next time, just what she say? Just at me?
Bruh.
But
what up, man?
Y'all are, what's going on, fellas? But we're just talking about how I had some people asking, how come we don't pray before the show starts, and how come we don't pray, after the show? And so what I did is I told Bill, because apparently there's people that they like to pray, and I mean like in the open, like in public, they like to do that. And I said, that's fine. I said, I'll tell you what we'll do is if somebody wants to pray, we'll have an intermission, right? So like usually we start around 7:30, so around 8:30 or 8:45 we'll have a intermission, and if somebody feels like they want to pray, they can do it right then and there, but this whole want to pray to open up the live, want to play to pray to close the live, like, man, like what's the point of that? It's all theatrics. God's already here. He don't need you to, while the show's going down, to show the world that we pray. And you don't have to prove to somebody you're a Christian. Let me say, if you catch yourself trying to prove that you're saved, you're probably not saved. I'm sorry to say that, but you can't always stay a baby. I said this to a lot of people for the past week, and if you guys, whoever you were, if you get offended, I'm telling you, people who easily get offended, you do not know how much God loves you. You don't. I'm sorry. If you are easily offended, if you catch yourself always taking some sort of offense, you do not know, man. People who know how much God loves them, they don't get offended like that because their eyes are focused on eternity to be with the Lord. They're not focused on what everybody's perspective is and everybody's look, man, we live in a fallen world. This flesh body that we have, it is not going to be perfect until we get our glorified body. Period. The end. You can try and you can pray all you want, but there's going to come a point in time where your flesh is going to fall again. And if you're not careful, because you fell again, you're going to fall apart like a $2 suitcase. And then you're just going to be starting all back over trying to make sure you're too good. It's just not going to happen. That's why it's good for individuals to go to more perfect teachings so you can see how much God loves you. Not just hear about it and just know like in your head, like, oh, I know God loves me. No. I'm talking about intimacy with him, seeing him throughout the whole Bible, because you'll start seeing more and more that he did all this for you. Everything that he did, look at David's life. He took the rod before he went to go fight Goliath, and you start understanding why David said, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You'll start seeing what it was that David saw, and you'll understand why David was called a man after God's own heart. You'll be able to see it. And that's intimacy. Without that, you're not having intimacy with God. I'm sorry, you're not. You can say you're having intimacy with him all you want during praise and worship, and you're sitting there crying, bawling your eyes out, and you got your hands in the air, and you're like, oh, this worship song is the best, but let me play a 1980 worship song. Let me see if you got your hands up there crying. A lot of people are just moved on their emotions and their feelings, and they're just following their belly God is what they're following. They're not following God. What they're calling God is their belly. They want to feel him. It's all about feelings. And what you're doing is you're telling everyone that that's God. And then when you say, hey, explain to me your God, it's all based on feelings. And they don't even realize it. They're just calling it Jesus, and it's their belly. That's why when Elisha unalive 450 prophets of Baal with the Jezebel's prophets, the contest was whoever God answers with fire. Oh, okay, hold on a second, my bad. Mac drop. But he says whoever answers with fire, let that be God. And so they both set up the sacrifice, and they're both doing their altar. One does theirs, and the other Baal's prophets does their first, and then it was Elijah did his second. But if you pay real close attention to this, it just looks like nothing, but I'm telling you, it is huge what Elijah proves to these people. These people start calling out to their God, right? And what did God say to Moses when he's already equipped Moses? When he already equipped Moses and Moses cried out to him, what did God say? He said, why criest thou unto me? people miss this. This is actually very huge because the rod, it was a representation, a shadow of Christ. He's already equipped Moses with the rod. Moses didn't do miracles. It was the rod that did it. It was the rod. He already told Moses, here, do this with the rod, do this with the rod over and over. And then here we are, they're getting chased. And he's like, he's like, they're coming. Oh, they're coming, Lord. And I could just understanding the way God is, the part that he portrays and shows us, right? Not claiming that I'm all knowing about God, but the one thing I do know is his characteristic, like how he is. Once he already gives you something, his characteristic is very easy throughout the whole Bible. He doesn't understand. His attitude is, I don't understand. I already gave it to you. And people know that. If you were to hand me something because I asked for it, I don't care, a book, and I said, hey, give me that book, and you go here, and I take it, everybody would look at me like a deer in a headlight if I asked you to give it to me again. It's that simple. That's I hate to make it that simple. I'm telling you, when God gave that staff to Moses, he wanted him to act like an adult. Let me just say that. Let me just make it clear. That's what he wanted. That's the standard he holds us to. So he gives him the rod, and then here we are at the Red Sea, and he's sitting there crying, and he's like, they're coming. He's like, oh my God, they're coming. And he's like, why criest thou unto me? Like, I don't understand. Why? Take the rod and put it over the water, and I could just see, oh yeah, the rod. And he put it over there, and it's like, bro, like what is it you're not getting? I already equipped you with it. I'm saying all that to say that when you see Elijah, mocking these prophets of Baal, and he's like, hey, Jess, morning. And he's like, hey, why don't you yell louder? Now, when it describes how they're yelling, they're yelling very matter of fact, let me go to it real quick, man. Let me see. It's actually quite hilarious what God is trying to show, and it's a prophet, right, that's doing this. Let's see. All right.
I'm sitting here talking. I'm on mute, man. It's in 2 Kings chapter 1.
Oh, is it 2 Kings?
Okay. Yeah. Verse 12 is right there.
Verse 12, you saying? Therefore, let me pray.
Wait, I think that might not be the right one.
Oh, is not it?
No, I don't think so. Hold on. No, that's when he went. That's when he went into heaven. Sorry, it's going to be in 1 Kings.
And I'm out of commission, guys. I'm still in bed. I got home late from vacation last night.
Oh my Lord!
So I'm just listening.
We don't need to hear of your shenanigans, ma'am.
1 Kings 18. I think it's 18.
That's an 18 sounds right.
Yeah, 1 Kings 18 is where it's at.
Let me see. 1 Kings. I had 18. I didn't know if it was first or second. 18, 20. All right, that's 14. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, you're right. That is it, I think. Let me see.
Yeah. Ahab sent people to
17,
Israel,
18.
Blah, blah, blah. Midday passed until the day. Elijah, come near me. And all the people came near to me. 12 stones. He laid it down. But it was them crying first. Where is it?
Yeah, it's around 10. It's around 20, I think, or 22. Let me see.
It starts in 20 for sure. And then I think Elijah said to the people,
25. And Elijah said, yeah, choose you one bullock for yourself and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of the gods, your God, and put no fire under. And they, it's funny. People don't understand, man. Like, Okay, so there's no other ingredient for God, right? I'm just saying, like in the Old Testament right now, there's no other ingredient. The only ingredient that you can't add is the fire, because God is the fire. So it's funny that the reason that these prophets of Baal, the reason that they don't mind taking this challenge from Elijah, the reason they don't mind it, right, is because you got to understand, they don't believe in this fire. This is what you got to understand. They really don't believe in it. And how do you know they really don't believe in it? They really thought that both were going to be mocked. And how do you know this is true? Because why would they take instruction from Elijah on how to build the altar and all that? Why? Why wouldn't they say, oh, no, our God's different. We do it different, huh?
Right.
Right? Why didn't they laugh at Elijah and be like, what are you talking about? We ain't got to do all that. I'll call for fire right now. And then how come their fire just didn't show up? It's very important to see what's really taking place here, because I'm still talking about people being in their belly, and you see it happening right here.
Well, I think it's the same situation too in Egypt, right? They wasn't worried about the magic of Moses. They thought theirs was like all powerful until Moses' staff ate theirs.
No, try.
Yeah.
This used to be one of my favorite stories, bro. It's been a while since I read this, and I'm looking at how he's making fun of them. I forgot about this.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's not ruin it, man. I know. Look, I know a lot of people has already read this, but the point. Hold on a second. Yeah, but the point, the point that I'm making, right, is like, again, it's always the little things for me that's like the best. It's never the ones that stick out, even though they're funny. There's some things that are funny. But the best part for me is I'm picturing Elijah saying, all right, listen, this is what we're going to do. And they're all like, okay, all right. What else? How else are we going to do this? Because one thinks that their God is talking to them, or the God is talking to them, and the other one shows, no, the God talks to me. It's not really that they have two different gods. I'm telling you, listen, if both gods were real, did the 450 prophets not know how to summon their God? Think about it. How is it that Elijah knows what to do, quote unquote, to summon his God? How does he know? How does he know what to do? Because this is how the God operates. Are y'all with me? Like these guys, women, whoever, if their God was real, wouldn't they know like what they need to do to summon their God?
You would think.
Well, yeah, and so let me tell you what they use to summon their God. They use their belly. Okay? But what Elisha's trying to show them is you're just in your feelings. There's no God. You're your God. You can see it if you play this out, you can see it. So he says, choose you one bullock for yourselves, dress it for you, and put no fire under it. 26. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it and called on the name of Baal from morning and evening until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice. There's no way that they ever have done this to talk to Baal. There's no way that they've done this, because they should have already known if it was going to work or not. The thing is, they didn't know if it was going to work. So they're listening to the prophet on what you do to get the God to talk, right? Watch. And it says, let me see. Nor any that answered, and they leaped upon the altar which was made. Leaped. So now they're doing the Indian dance on top of this altar, right? Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, probably going to lose about half the people in about 30 seconds.
Oh, brother, listen. Before you continue, I'm with you, bro. I started seeing this as a young preacher a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I never said nothing because I was too young and too quote unquote stupid to know anything.
Yeah. So let's just watch the characteristic of the two types of prophets here. One is the prophets of Baal. So we're going to watch how this prophets of Baal handle how they handle themselves while they're trying to summon their God, right? Trying to summon him. Watch. It says, and they hopped on the altar which they have made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, now watch this. They've been there all day.
And night.
And night. And I'm telling you right now, I'm just going to say they probably had a lot of music going on. I'm just going to say, does it actually have to say that? Does it really have to say that?
They had a lock-in.
They had a lock-in, bro. It was going down. It was going down. Matter of fact, they found the cunning sewers of all sorts, and they made cunning rugs and banners that said, "Come to Baal's unveiling," and it said right here, and it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked him and said, cry aloud, for he is a God, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awakened. Now, I don't think people actually.
Bro, I've never caught that before.
Oh,
bro.
Oh, yeah.
Elijah is basically saying, come on
Straight
now.
up mocked him.
Yeah, he's mocking because remember the spirit. He's trolling because the spirit and the flesh are enmity. What two things are enmity? What two things are enmity? Spirit and flesh.
Right.
So they're acting in their what?
In their flesh.
Come on, man. This is not hard. This is not hard. I had people over the weekend bring up some topics to me, and I mean, I'm telling you, there is so much confusion going on because everybody wants to believe there's 50,000 things going on above it. There is not 50,000 things going on in the Bible. When you're reading the Bible, it's either Satan doing something, God doing something, or someone is just making their own dumb choice to do something, and it's leading to one of the roots. That's it. That is it. There is not 50,000 things going on. So when we read the Old Testament and you see two men, I'm just saying man, talking about mankind, two men, having a dispute over what God is and what God is not. It should not be hard. If you read the Bible, it shouldn't be hard to notice that one is obviously going to be in the flesh and the other one is going to be in the spirit. And I don't mean that the spirit is dwelling in Elijah like that. Not like when, before Christ. I'm not talking about in that way. But either way, he is representing that of the spirit, period, the end. No need to debate whether it was in him, on him, living on his pinky toe. That crap don't matter right now. What matters is which one is representing the spirit and which one is representing the flesh. It is evidently clear which is which. And it's not a coincidence how the flesh acts when it thinks it's praising its God. It's not a coincidence. Sorry. And he says, let's see. What's the one part?
You can't go over the fact. You can't just go over like the man just said. Your God's on vacation, bro. He's on the journey.
Bro. Oh no, I'm going back to each one of them. No, look. Let me start at the first one. He says, "Cry aloud, for he is a God." And now here they put lowercase g, right? Because the person that's writing this, they don't want to give credit to him as being the capital G. But
right.
What Elijah is saying is, come on now, he's a God, right? Right? He's a God. And he says, He says, either, watch this, either he is talking or he is pursuing. The point that Elijah's making is he's just busy. Right? But
Cry
notice,
louder. The worship music. He probably just can't hear over it.
yeah, that's it. Because remember what you have to understand what Elijah's mocking. He's mocking their flesh. These people see God as this. Elijah did not just make these things up. He didn't make the talking, the sleeping. He didn't make those up. I'm telling you, the people back in these days, this is how they saw God. Why? Because they were in their flesh. So they had man's understanding on what God was. How many times do we have to read that man has their own understanding on who God is? Okay, well, if man has their own understanding, how far does that go? It doesn't go very far. They sleep, they eat, the gods, they sleep, they eat, they busy. Who are we? We're just mere ants. The gods. There's no relationship. No relationship at all.
That word pursuing in the original Hebrew is referring to like meditating. So he's like, is your God?
Yeah, bro. Hey, he's up there sitting cross-legged humming, bro. Hum.
Yeah, he's lama, 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 lama.
Bro, these people, and it happens today. People are still when they go, listen, a lot of people go to church, bro. Excuse me, man. A lot of people go to church and they're like, worship music, play more worship music. And it's like, oh, okay. What's funny, if the worship music was as powerful as they're claiming, why do they got to make a new song every week? Why's it got to be a new song every month then? I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding what I'm saying. There are people who are saved, okay? And they have cried out to the Lord, okay? And they're not renewing their mind. And so when they go listen to worship music, the God that they're worshiping are their feelings. And people say, well, you can't say we can't. No. That's not what I'm saying. That's why I'm using this story right here. If you tell me that you cannot see that the one that's representing the spirit, Elijah, is mocking the people that are in their flesh and claiming that they have a God, not knowing that their flesh is their God, and they don't even know it. You mean to tell me that these prophets of Baal, they knew that they were worshiping their own belly? They knew that? No. No, you don't know it. That's the problem. You don't know you're worshiping your own belly. That's why the Bible has to tell us, because you don't know. But the point Elijah is making here, making very clear that these two prophets, they're enmity to one another. One is of the flesh. It should be evidently clear that it's of the flesh. If you can't see that, you're not reading your Bible enough. You need to go read your Bible more. So he says, maybe the last part, he says, maybe he's sleeping and he must be awoken. Now, let me say this. If these people understood God, why are they listening to Elijah? Why? Like, for instance, I have a relationship with Jesus. Why would I listen to an Islamic believer about what I need to do to communicate with Jesus? Why? So
they don't have anything to actually believe in other than their thoughts, right?
Other than their flesh.
Yeah.
Other than themselves. Other than themselves, yeah. And so here it says, maybe he needs to be awakened. And it says, and they cried aloud. So now they're crying louder. So basically, Elijah spoke to them in a way that they would understand, which is carnally, in the flesh. He said, hey, you're not being loud enough, obviously. And they're like, oh, dude, that makes sense. That makes, duh. Like, come on, guys. And let me tell you, there's 450 of them. Don't you think they were pretty loud?
Oh my goodness.
It's not like there's 3 or 4, bro. There's 450 of these people. And he's like, come on, man. What are you talking about? He's probably on the toilet.
That's what he says. He says he's probably relieving himself.
Oh, man, dude. And it says, they cried aloud, and it says, and cut themselves after their after their manner. What does that mean? After their manner.
The way they do things, that's like,
It wouldn't say. That's right. That's what there. That there is not THERE. There's an I.
Right.
Saying after their, literally them, the way they do things.
And that's what.
So it could be like a custom, or
that's what Leviticus,
it could be like a custom.
That's what Leviticus talks about when they talk about like not cutting yourself in the laws. It's talking about these types of cutting, the types that these people were doing.
Yeah, but where do we see in the New Testament? Where do we see a weird type of cutting like this? Anybody?
Weird.
Anybody?
And it I know Leviticus warns against cutting yourself.
No, in the New Testament. Right? The New Testament. The New Testament. I'm telling you, it's so. It's
the kid that was possessed. The kid that was possessed that they had to chain up.
What did it say? No, it wasn't a kid. It was the man that lived in the
cave.
No.
In the cemetery.
There you go. All right, and what did he do? He cut himself. So here we go. So here, this is just different. So okay, so watch. Just because this is New Testament, Jesus is here, and this person is cutting himself, it has nothing to do with prophets of Baal. Because it's not there. It's out of context. No, it's perfect context, my friend. Only flesh and spirit are enmity. There's not 50,000 things going on in the Bible, man. There's not. I'm sorry. Sorry to pop your bubble. There's not. This is just not an isolated incident that's different. No, this is a person that needs to be saved. They all act the same. So he says, let me see. They cried out loud. He mocked. 28. And they cried out loud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets till the blood gushed upon them. And it came to pass when midday was past that they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that there was neither voice nor any answer, nor any that regarded. So nothing happened. Let me just say this. If your flesh is doing all the thing to attract God, I hate to tell you, you ain't attracting God. You're worshiping your feelings, your belly. And you can sit there and hate it, be mad at it, all you want to. But I'm sitting here trying to tell you, are you a prophet of Baal or are you a prophet of God? And I'm telling you right now, I know if you're saved and you sucked into a custom of screaming and hooping and hollering and doing backflips, trust me, I understand. I get it. But I'm sitting there trying to tell you that you more than likely could have been sucked into this belief that because you're not feeling something, then God's not there. And I'm telling you, there are many Christians that they feel God when a good song comes on because it just hits their soul. No, Bubba, it hits your flesh and it feels good. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not moved by my feelings. I don't feel that I'm in the presence of God when a good song comes on and it makes me feel good. That's not when I'm in the presence of God. No. I'm saved. And 1/3 of me is wall to wall Holy Ghost. And every day by faith, I know who I am. Not because I feel good or feel bad. You're no different than these prophets of Baal. You're in your feelings.
Well, I'll tell you what, people don't read their Bible because they don't feel anything when they read the Bible.
That's right. Why would
I
read it?
For a feeling.
Yeah, they're looking for a feeling, which means your belly is your God and you don't even realize it. And you're trying to take those feelings and say, that's God. Nope, sure not. I'll tell you what then. Turn 18 again and go fall in love with let's just say you're a male. Go fall in love with a woman and let me know when those butterflies get there, because when they get there, I'm going to say, that's God. And you're going to believe me.
And the Bible is spiritual, man. The Bible is a spiritual book. It has to be revealed to you in the spirit. And the spirit is enmity against the flesh. That's why most people and most Christians do not read the Bible, because they get bored. Immediately their flesh gets into it and they're like, oh my God, this is boring, the begottens or this or that, whatever the case may be. And again, it goes back to us fasting to be able to control the flesh and say, no, you're going to sit here and read this book and we're going to understand this book. We're going to go through it. And God, when those who seek diligently, that is seeking diligently, that's going past your fleshly desires. That's going past the desires of you not wanting to read your scripture and instead be entertained by a TV or a Netflix or whatever the case may be. And I'm not trying to be religious, but it's the desire to know God beyond the fleshly desire to not want to sit there and read the book. And then the book gets revealed to you. If somebody asked me a question in a DM, like, how do you spiritually read the book? You got to read it. That's what it is. You got to read it. And the more you read it, and the more you put your flesh aside and say, no, we're gonna focus on this thing. We're gonna turn off, even if it means like playing the freaking book. Let it read to you while you follow along in your Bible. Then you do that.
Yeah, and let me say on that, man, there's a lot of audible Bible readings, and I have a little a part of it that a family member got me. It's got Morgan Freeman, and it's not the entire Bible, man, but it's still the Bible by Morgan Freeman being read. It's like I said, it's a small part of it, but it's really cool. But there are audible Bibles where you can have someone reading the entire Bible. And I'm telling you, if you're at work and your work allows you to put an earpiece in, there is no reason that you can't have that just humming in your ear while you're working. Now, of course,
work out to it, bro. I ain't even gonna hold you, man. I'll play it and I'll listen to like a book in the Bible while I'm working out, and I'll just be geeking out like that's crazy.
Yeah. So, now again, if your job requires you to be focused so you don't become unalived, that might not be the best environment to be doing that, or maybe just put it in one ear. Excuse me. Maybe just put it in one ear, but let me get back to this real quick. So, where was I at? 28 lancets, blood gushed out, and it came to pass. Nope, already read that. Regarded. All right. So basically, all the way to 29, nothing happened. Now, what we can say happened is they were in their flesh for 24 hours, for over a day. They were in their flesh, but nothing happened. So. And Elijah said to all the people, now watch this. And this is here's one of the seems insignificant, but one of the most important things. You got to understand, Elisha's a prophet here, man. And he's trying to prove God, and he knows there's only one way to do this. And the one way that he did it was to unite with the people. And a lot of people missed this part. These people knew what God's altar looked like. Because you got to remember, it's Elijah, 450 prophets, and it's the people, talking about people, us, the rest of the people. And Elijah got them to help him build the altar, which is very important. Elisha involved them. That's very important. He didn't do it by himself. Why? Because we're one body, one spirit. We're all one. So he gets the people involved, not because of any carnal reason, because of the spiritual truth that we're one body. That's the reason. No other reason. And it kills me when people say, well, that's how you see it. The way I see it, bro, we're not sitting at a table trying to figure out how to go to the moon. And everybody gets their opinion on how they see it. We're one body. The Bible has to be consistent. We're one body, one spirit. That's the truth about the people. Not, oh, well, he was only doing it. He did that because, I heard a guy say, oh, well, he did that because, he wanted the people to focus really on what he was doing. And no, bro, no, he's doing it God's way, one body. And Elisha said unto all the people, come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him. And he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones. We know the 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob. So watch this. Elijah's putting 12 stones up. You don't think the people knew what those 12 stones meant? They all knew. Every one of them knew what that meant. Give me a second. Sorry, I'm trying to move something out the... I'll just do it later. All right, so, the 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And here's, I'm going to make, I probably shouldn't even say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Oh, man, dude. I was talking to someone through some DMs the other day. They wanted to know why, if Jesus was Israel. And I was like, oh, my Lord. I said, I'm glad you asked on a DM. I'll go through there real quick. I'm not going to say a whole lot here, but it's very important to understand why Jacob's name was changed to Israel. OK, and that's because Jesus is Israel. Jesus is the promised land. This is why you'll always hear me talk about the Garden of Eden and us being it, because he became the desolate ground. So we can become revived. He's it. Jesus is the promised land. Okay. I know that may not be, he is Israel. Israel, the physical Israel in this world, was a shadow of something to come. It's not the actual promised land. It was a shadow the entire time. Jesus is. And, you go look it up in Hebrew, Brother David. We will rule as God. And yeah, it does mean it's either he, we, or it's either he will or we will rule as God, just depending on who you talk to. But he will rule as God or we will rule as God, whichever way. But he will rule as God is talking about Christ. That's why Israel's name means what it means. He will rule as God. And anyone that claims that he will rule as God is part of the body. But anyway, so according to that was broken down to 12 stones, Jacob, Lord, saying, shall be thy name. Okay, 32. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar, the grate, as would excuse me, contain 2 measures of seed. Now, and it says, and he put the wood in order and cut the bullock in pieces and laid him on the wood and said, fill 4 barrels with water and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. So he told the people to do this. Jeez. So the people, is it a coincidence, man? Here's another thing. Is it a coincidence that he got the people to pour the water? The people are pouring the water. What kind of water is this representing? Oh, man. I'm not going to get into baptism, but, oh, man. They're going to say it was physical water. Duh. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was physical water, just like the prophets of Baal were physically worshiping God, right? Oh, man, dude, too good. Let's see. And he said to the people, all right, I'm sorry, I'm losing my place here. All right, took 12 stones, and he put the wood in order. Fill the water. And he did so. Do it a second time. Okay, so remember, there's 12. All right, so he did it a second time. So it's 4, 8, and they did it a second time. And he said, do it a third time. And they did it a third time. So now there's 12 barrels of water, one for each stone, right? And it came to pass in the time of the offering of the evening. When was Jesus taken off the cross? Anybody?
Third hour.
3 o'clock.
Was it in the evening?
Yep.
Okay. What is the reason that they said in the evening take bodies off crosses? What was the reason? Anybody remember?
I don't remember that.
Overnight is a curse or something?
That's right. It's a curse, right? Okay. Now, if y'all remember when Joshua, when he led the people to take over the land of Canaan, do y'all remember that he unalived 5 kings and hung them on trees? Anybody remember that?
Yep. Yes, sir.
And what time did they take them down? In the evening?
Yep. In the evening.
Right? Because it was a shadow of what?
Jesus.
Right. Okay.
Christ.
So, all right. So let's see. They did it a second time, a third time. So 12 buckets of water. Let's see. Ran about the altar. Okay. So the water ran around the altar and filled the trench also with water. So we can say that there is a thing in the kingdom that is fire igniting water. Can we say that? Is that true? See, in our world that we live in, and I'm talking about regular water. I'm not saying that you didn't play with some magician tricks and make your water catch fire. I'm talking about actual water, okay? Real water out of the tap. Not that there's been anything added, no additives. You're not going to take a flame and light the water on fire. It's just not going to happen.
Unless you live in Flint, Michigan.
But again, I'm not talking about magician tricks. Okay. So, but I'm not talking about magician tricks or anything. I'm saying just regular water. But in God's world, his water lights on fire. And if you don't know that by now, that fire igniting water exists in God's kingdom. Period. The end. It does. All right. So let's see. And it came to pass, midday, 31. I need to save my spot better. I apologize.
Up to the third time they pour the third time.
All right, there we are.
With the
So 36, and it came to pass the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that these people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Notice it says that thou hast turned their heart. Show me where God had any part there. Somebody, please. Where did God do anything? Anybody? He said that thou hast turned their heart back. Not Lord, come, because now the people's heart has been turned. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said, 37, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Let me ask you this. Anybody, How did God turn their heart back? Anybody?
Is this like when Jesus said to Peter, "This isn't because of you knew, but because the Holy Spirit revealed it to you"?
Yeah, I know, but what has taken place here that gave Elisha confidence to know to start talking to God this way? What happened? Something had to have happened.
The revelation.
Nobody sees it.
That their gods didn't move, obviously.
Well, yeah, but Elijah wasn't surprised that didn't happen. He knew their God
Right.
wasn't real. So what has happened? Name everything that's on the altar. What's there in front of them?
The water, the wood, and the meat that's on
And
the
the
altar.
stone and the rocks.
It's the revelation
Okay.
of Jesus.
That's what I said. The revelation. He received revelation.
Yeah, but you're talking. Yeah, but listen, right now, Bill, you're talking from this side of the cross. I'm saying what is happening right there physically. What is happening right there that made Elijah say, "Okay, now I'm going to start talking to God." Physically, right there in front of him, what's taking place?
I mean, everything was set in order, I guess. I don't know.
So the altar was made, right? The sacrifice is sitting on the altar. The wood is there, but yet there's no fire. And then it says, I'm going to read it the way it says it here. Let me see. It says, and the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar. What does that mean? About the altar.
Around it.
So there's water around the whole altar, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there's water around the whole altar. There is an altar. There's the wood. There's no fire. The sacrifice is there, and it's cut up. Notice it's not whole. It's cut up. And the only thing missing is the quote-unquote fire. It's the only thing that's missing there.
Don't tell me it got consumed.
Well, we haven't read that part yet.
And it's kind of drawing the image of like how when the Day of Atonement thing. So they would provide the sacrifice and do everything that they need to do, and the fire would fall from heaven.
Yeah, right. So the only thing that's missing so far is the fire. That's it. But when the people poured the water, the 12, when the people did that, there was unity, because we have been sealed in the Holy Spirit of promise. We have been sealed. And so when they poured that water in the trench, it sealed the sacrifice, and they all did it together as one body.
Wow.
So now Elijah said, let's word it the way he said it. Great, come down. My name. Let's see. I'm sorry. Thou, 37. And he said, know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again, because the people are the ones who poured the water. The people did it. Believers
under God.
Believers in me, out of their belly will flow rivers of living water. The people's belly was not focused on flesh at this moment. Now, of course, we understand that they didn't have the Holy Spirit living in them. But if you remember, the way God looks at his people, he looks at them as an entirety, as one unit. That's why when he talked about when he talks about what's the Old Testament word? Backsliding. When he talks about backsliding, most of the time he's talking about the whole Israel. For the people, or Israel, or a backsliding people, he talks about all of them. And people are taking this
societal thing.
It's the whole nation, right? The holy nation of God backslid. So when people take this and they go, you watch this. If all of us right now, there's about 60 people in here. If all of us are one body, and someone comes in here and they say to Dre, you sinned yesterday, you backslid. Let me ask you this. Why would you cut a part of your body off that way? Why would you tell one person they backslid when that's not how God spoke to Israel? It was the whole nation. Basically, the nation's either holy or it's not. Period. So when people are so focused on sin, the way that people are focused on sin, you'll push everybody out of your group. And you don't even realize you're destroying yourself when you do that. That's why it says if you point the finger at someone and put them under the law, you put yourself under the law because they're part of the body. Not saying that if you tell them you're bad, then you individually are bad too. No, you're making the whole thing bad. The whole thing's either good or the whole thing's bad. Why? Because Jesus is Israel, the promised land, and we've been grafted in.
11 levels the whole lump, right?
Amen.
Yeah. So we're all one. So when these people poured this water in as a unit, all the people did this. When all the people did this, was spiritually showing the sealing of everything that they are, but they all did it together. So he knew. He's like, their hearts have been turned. Why? Because they did it. But it was only God that can do that. Only God can do that. So, and again, of course, the sacrifice is there. Christ, all of it's there. Everything that is representing what makes people right with God, it's all right there. And they did what was right in God's sight, which is Christ. You see this a lot in the Old Testament, and they did which was right in God's sight. And if you pay attention to what they did, it's always Christ. But people who are under the law, oh, see, they did it works. It was works. They did something. They don't understand what was right in God's sight.
Yep, that's why Jesus referred. We go back to the same thing, man, over and over again. That's why Christ said there's only two trees, man. There is the good tree that bears good fruit, and there's a bad tree that bears bad fruit. You can't be a good tree that bears bad fruit. You can't be a bad tree that bears good fruit. You're either good or you're bad. He has either known you or he has never known you. I heard somebody arguing that today. That's why some Islamic believer talking about, look, he practiced lawlessness. Paul practiced lawlessness. No, you fool. You just don't realize that he said he never knew you. That means he never knew you. So the body, when you're grafted into the body of Christ, when you are part of the vine, you are good. Your spirit is good. There's nothing you can do to change that. Period.
Yeah. Let me see. Where was I? 37.
Then
Huh? Oh, yeah, 37. Okay, so thou hast turned their heart back again. 38. Then the fire of the Lord fell. So notice, as soon as Elijah claimed that it was God that did it, not their works, not what they did. So building this altar, the temple, everything was done by Elijah. The only thing the people did was pour the water, meaning believe what Elisha did. And what's Elisha's name mean? Somebody have it right there? I don't remember off the top of my head.
God of Jehovah, or Jehovah is something like that.
Well, I need to know for sure, not something like that. I don't have my. Make
I
me
think
look.
somebody
I can look
posted
it
a
up.
while
I
ago
can
that
look it
said
up.
God
One
of
second,
Jehovah.
bro. Just give me a second.
Well, no, I mean, trust me, I can throw out 20 I think so's myself, but
Somebody put God of Jehovah.
well, that sounds right. That sounds right.
Thank you, brother Dave.
But was that David? David,
David.
David, the gold mine, dude. If anybody wants to purchase gold, brother David here sells gold for a living. There you go, David. You're welcome. We love you. He's saying it's Strong's 452.
Yeah, 452. It says Elijah or Elijah. It's my God. My God is Jehovah.
Okay, my God is Jehovah, or God of Jehovah. But how did you put it? What did you say?
It says in quotes, "My God is Jehovah."
Yeah, my God is Jehovah. Yeah. Yeah, I knew Jehovah was part of it, but I just couldn't remember what the. But either way,
His God wasn't his belly.
his guy. Yeah, exactly. So these other people,
Whoa.
these other people, the prophets of Baal, obviously. Hey, look up Baal. I
All right,
for
give me a
some
second.
reason I can't even remember a little bit what the name of that is. Like I can't even throw out I think so on that one. I totally forgot.
Obadiah, yada yada, 28, 29. Where is it? Baal. There it is. All right. Go to
It
the
says it equals 1 million.
En la concordancia, la palabra de Dios dice que Baal significa Lord. That just says Lord.
It's just Lord.
The
Okay.
original root word is owner, husband, Lord, owner, husband, citizen, inhabitant. That's the root word, but the actual 1168 H,
Bruh.
it means Lord, proper masculine, supreme male divinity,
Ona.
supreme male divinity of the Phoenicians or Canaanites.
Yeah.
Could it mean in Ona?
Ona.
In
All right,
Hebrew.
so
Oh,
Was that in Hebrew? Strong's Hebrew?
if you go back to the Hebrew Chaldean
Yeah.
lexicon, it says having a well. But
oh
What?
yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. Let me see. All right. So when he said thou hast turned their heart back again, remember God's going to get the glory on why we are what we are, right? No man's going to be able to boast and say, I'm in heaven because I did good. Nobody's going to be able to say that. And so when Elisha says, thou hast turned their heart back again, all glory went to God because of what is there, the sacrifice. That's why. Because it's going to be him that does it. And it says, then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the dust. And the dust. Very important for that part. What, do you think the dust is only trying to tell us like the dirt that's there? Never mind. Just never mind. And the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. So now there's nothing there. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, the Lord, he is the God. The Lord, he is the God. And Elisha said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon and slew them there. And Elisha said unto Ahab, get thee up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of abundance of rain. Now remember, it hadn't rained in a long time, right?
yeah, it was a drought.
Okay, so when the sacrifice was accepted, never mind. I'm going to digress. Let me finish this. All right, so Elijah went up at the top of Carmel. Oh, I'm sorry. And Ahab went up to eat eat and drink. And Elisha went up at the top of Carmel, and he cast himself down upon the earth and put his he put his face between his knees and said, "Oh, hold on, let me move this thing out the way. I'm sorry."
Wait. Try it.
What?
When the sacrifice was accepted, water began to come down, which is another shadow of Christ, of the earth being flooded with him after his sacrifice.
Yes.
Okay. You just said that.
I just didn't want to digress.
You say that. No, keep going. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I know, bro. I don't want to, because I feel like I never finish stories because I'm always digressing. Or I don't want to say stories, but like finish reading what happened, like the black letters on the white page, they're still important.
Right.
All right. So let me see. Yeah. So abundance of rain, Ahab. Let me see.
All
right. So here. Yeah, so I'm on 42, at the end of 42, where Elijah put his head between his knees. So it's showing a certain action here of Elisha. And said to his servant, okay, so now Elijah's talking to his servant. He says, "Go up now, look toward the sea." And he went up and looked and said, "There is
nothing."
Yeah, there is nothing. And he said, "Go again 7 times, 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time, which is, we know, the perfect number of God, that he said, Behold, there arises a little cloud out of the sea, like a man's hand. And he said, Go up and say unto Ahab, Prepare thy chariot and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not. And it came to pass in the meanwhile that the heaven was black, and the clouds and wind black with clouds and wind, and there was a great rain. And Ahab rode and went to Jezreel, and the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. He ran pretty darn fast. Dre, if you want, you could talk about that a little bit. I'm getting the finger come here finger real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah. No, what Trots said a second ago, which was amazing when you think about it, it wasn't until the entire sacrifice was completely consumed, which we know. Hold on, John Scott, man, the only way I can text, no, bro, you can lose lower cases, bro. You're texting in all caps on purpose. Just don't do that, please. It gets distracting. But it wasn't until the entire sacrifice was consumed, that the rain came down after the drought. And if you go and you think about the shadow of Christ, before Christ, the whole land is in a drought. We are in a drought. We are the dry, desolate land. And it isn't until the sacrifice of Christ that actually takes place and he is consumed and he says it is finished, that the earth is reflooded again. But it's reflooded with the living water, which is Christ. And then the tree, the tree, which is a tree of life, brings life to us, which brings the rivers of living water within us. And again, it's the shadow of Christ within it, which is amazing. If you caught that, that was really dope. So, yeah, it can be distracting, but some use caps who need bigger letters to read too. Yeah, but that's not the case. So, and you don't need to read your own letters. If that's the case, we should all be writing caps for him, not vice versa. Anyways, so did you guys catch that? How after the sacrifice the rain comes down, like he opens up the windows of heaven, and we see that, like, open the windows of heaven. It's just it's an amazing type and shadow.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
I just got out of bed. Sorry.
No, you're good, bro. Anyways,
I gotta go make my coffee. I need coffee.
Exactly, Renee. It's not a secret. But anyways, going back to the Bible being spiritual, which I was touching on that a little earlier. The Bible being spiritual means, it's a spiritual book, and that's why A lot of people can't read it, including, oh my gosh. Anyways, the Bible is a spiritual book. And obviously, our flesh does not like the spirit. Flesh is enmity to the spirit. That's why it's so difficult to read the scriptures a lot of times in our flesh. And if you think about how easily we become distracted when you're reading the Bible, it's just about anything can distract you and move you from reading the scriptures, because it is a spiritual thing. And your flesh is enmity against the word of God. It's enmity against this book. So it's hard. The concentration piece, it becomes very difficult. But you notice that it doesn't take much. It takes a whole lot to be distracted. If you're like highly involved in a movie, or you're highly involved in something that is visually and emotionally touching you physically, then you'll notice that it's a lot more difficult to become distracted at that point, because your flesh is being entertained. When your flesh is entertained, it's a whole different ball game. And that's what I'm referring to, is like the enmity between the spirit and the book. So as Christians, even myself, like, you have to sit there when you read this scripture. You have to be purpose driven when you read the scriptures, and you have to understand that there is going to be distractions, and anything will distract you from the word of God, because the word of God is what changes, and that's where faith comes from, is the word of God. So that's why it's so hard, and you meet a lot of Christians that really don't read Bible. And I grew up in a church. Like, my parents are pastors, my parents' parents are pastors, and I got a lot of family members that have been Christians their whole life. But you see a lot of the acts that we're talking about, where the emotional things make it seem like that is where the anointing, quote unquote, of God is, and that couldn't be further from the truth. That is not true. The Bible is in this book. When you read this scripture and you have the understanding, that things begin to change, and your mindset changes, your paradigm changes in the spirit. And a lot of people haven't had that paradigm change, because they're stuck in the old ways because of what they've been told what is, instead of reading it for themselves. The majority of people only know the mainstream, what I call mainstream Bible stories. But when you start digging deep into the word and you ask questions, they really don't understand much of anything. And it's because they don't read the Bible. And the reason they don't read the Bible, again, is because the Bible is a spiritual book. You have to read it with spiritual eyes. Those who have eyes to see will see, and those who have ears to hear will hear. But they don't see it. So they're distracted very easily, which causes the problems that we see today, which is the false doctrines of the world, or even the legalism, or the lack of love, or all these things that we see in groups of Christians. It's really lack of, it's like the Lord said, is because of the lack of knowledge, is what causes my people to perish. And that's why people perish in the spirit and don't even see it. But yeah, I'm gonna digress right there.
Not only that, but we see our society, and we know who the powers and principalities in our society, and why is it always doing? It's always entertaining. It's always keeping people asleep, keeping them hypnotic with all these festivals. Look at this month, the festival this month. All these things. What is that doing? It's keeping them active in their flesh and their carnal mind, going through everything. Everything, the TVs, like you mentioned, everything is against the spiritual nature that we were created to be.
100%. Shailene, I hope you understood what I was saying. But yeah, that's exactly it right there. And that's the issue that we run into, and people forget about it. That this is a book that is written by God, and God is spirit. And if you got to have spiritual eyes to see it, you have to fight through, work through the flesh, and be like, nah, we're not doing that, and we're going to read this scripture, and we're going to try to understand this and go back to it and read it 50 million times. I mean, I'll read it Barney style. And the hand of the Lord was on Elijah. Everything means something, and you got to just go back and read it over and over again. Trot, you there? Sounds like you're there.
It's just these pieces hovering around.
Yeah, that's correct, Shailene. 100%. 100%. And that's why if you pay attention to even talking about fasting, it's about fasting isn't about like uh, getting additional spiritual blessings and additional anointing. That is false. 100% false. Ephesians 1 and 3 says he's already given us all spiritual blessings. When you look at that, so it's already been given to us. But now we have to dig. Um,
Man.
we have to dig. That's what it is. God conceals a matter and it is of kings to dig it out and look through it. And that's why I love the parable when Jesus says a man who finds a treasure in a field, he'll sell everything that he has to go back and keep that secret and go back and dig that ground up. And when you find one nugget, and here's the thing, try or anybody on the panel could drop knowledge and give you revelations that they received, and you'll be like, man, that is great, that is awesome. But I'm telling you, it's a whole nother level when you start finding stuff for yourself. You know, it's kind of like eating a good plate of it's like eating a good plate of ceviche, right? When you make it yourself, when you eat it, when your dad makes ceviche, it's really, really good. But when you make your own ceviche and people are like, yo, that's good, it's a whole nother level.
I like the way you slid that jab in.
It's a fact though. It's a fact though. Real
Yeah,
talk. I know
it
it's
is.
funny.
It is. It's just, it's tastier. You're absolutely right. I agree
Oh
with you
yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah.
But if you could go so much deeper with the meaning of the fasting, because it's for us to take control, to be able to dominate our flesh, our carnal mind, our carnal thinking, that it must be subdued, and we must fill the spirit. And once we get full control of our carnal body and mentality, that's when we start seeing more. We're able to be more, I wouldn't say active, but more in tune with the word, with God, with the purpose that He's placing on. We're able to see, like you said, we're able to see what others can't see because they're in the carnal mind.
Yep. Understanding the key words. When you start understanding the key words in the scriptures, like water, you start thinking living water. There's two waters. There's bitter water. There's living water. And when you start understanding some of these key words in the scriptures, the things will begin to light up for you. Like the book will become alive for you, and it'll be in your spirit. Then it's a whole different ball game from that point on. Um,
Man.
Even like this, like when it says the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, I mean that happens quite a bit when the hand of the Lord comes upon somebody, or the Spirit comes upon somebody. Like when we read even in the old in some of the other judges. Trot, what's up, man? I hear you back. I can hear you
I'm
sniffling.
here.
Yep. Roscoe. I'm
We're,
gonna start calling you Roscoe from Martin.
why?
Oh, I'm gonna show you. Since you said that, I'm glad you opened up that door. Give me a second.
Hold on. You talking about the guy that always comes in through the window?
No, that's brother
Oh.
man.
Oh, yeah, that's brother
Roscoe.
man.
Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Here you go.
Do I need to make your screen bigger?
Yeah, you probably want to.
Who is it?
Oh, that's Roscoe.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Look at his nose. Look at his nose. He's always sniffling.
Oh, is he?
Watch. Look at his nose. It's all snotty.
How old is he?
I don't know, bro.
Is he a kid?
Yeah, he's a kid.
Oh, okay.
He's playing the role of a kid.
That's Martin Lawrence.
You can't see his nose, bro, but his nose is like sniffling, bro. He's like always going.
Yeah, no, I'm probably driving everybody.
He always has a thing hanging on it.
Claritin, brother. Claritin works. Works.
Oh, I've already taken one. Be quiet. I've already taken one.
You got to be consistent, though, brother.
Unless it's a demon. It's just a demon trying to come out.
Let's see.
Oh, River, that's my favorite show, man. I can watch Martin reruns. Like, ain't no show like Martin, bro.
Show's
Hey,
pretty
you know
pretty
what
funny.
helped
I've seen
that,
it.
bro?
I've seen several of them.
You know what helped that? You need some tetrahydrocannabinol.
What?
Oh my Lord! I better not take none of that. What?
I think Flint just spoke in tongues.
My goodness. God, it's like I know
Bruh.
what you need, bro. You need to swallow a freaking Russian-made atom bomb. Yeah, that's what I need, right?
Hey, have you ever juiced? You ever juiced before?
Juiced? Like the
Yeah,
old school juice? Like
I do.
steroids?
No,
No,
not
no,
that kind of
juice.
juice.
I'm literally juicing right now.
Yeah, where you buy like fruits
Orange
and
juice,
veggies.
yeah, orange juice.
No. You buy like fruits and veggies. You buy yourself a juicer and you put it in the juicer and you juice like the fruits and veggies.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're like, have you ever juiced? I was thinking of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was like, juiced? Like steroids? Because they talk about juicing, right?
Hey, look at this.
Have I ever juiced?
Hey, look at this skit right here, bro. This is funny, bro. This is you Saturday morning.
What are you doing in here? It is 6:30 in the morning. How did you get in here?
Never mind how I got in here. I want to watch cartoons.
Yo, I picture Trots swinging his feet like that.
Look at his nose.
Oh, I can see it. I can see it. Hey, he said, don't worry about how I got in here. I wanted to watch cartoons.
Right.
Oh, man, come on, bro.
Oh, my
Come
God.
on, bro. That's hilarious. It's like, how did you get in here? Don't worry about how I got in here.
Hey,
I want to watch
I
cartoons.
I did make my wife sit down and watch episode 1 with me last night. The wife
Oh,
and the
man,
kids,
dude.
Star Wars. And then when the leader of the Gungans stood up the first time making his speech, and I just busted out laughing. She couldn't understand why. I was like, "That's Bill." She's like, "Who's Bill?"
Oh,
man, dude.
you're not very nice.
You're not very nice. Yeah, but one thing I was going to say real quick about, when Elisha said that thou hast turned their heart again, it's not a coincidence because it was God that brought his back to him through his grace. And it's not a coincidence again when it talks about what happened. It says, let me find it real quick.
Hey, excuse me. Whoever burped.
I know. I apologize, guys. I apologize. If you don't like to hear a manly grizzly bear act like a grizzly bear, then you can't be here. Hey, I said that to my I said that to my wife one time. I was like, hey, if you don't like the manly grizzly bear noises, she goes, manly grizzly bear. She's like, Care Bear stare.
That's funny, bro.
Bro, I was like,
she refuted you, bro. She refuted you.
Oh, she's hilarious, bro. She'll give me the business. She's like, would you
We thought
stop
Trot
it?
was the spin doctor.
Oh, hey, she learns from the best. Let me see.
I'm glad
here
you
it is. Huh?
Nothing.
Oh, that's all right. But I spin it back to the truth though, so it's all right.
Oh no, sir. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna like you spent that 25,000 square foot Chinese restaurant to 12,000 square feet. Yeah, okay.
Hold on a second. What you're doing though is not fair because I didn't say that it was 25,000 square feet.
I'm glad Flip was there. Flip, what did the man say?
25,000.
No. I didn't say it was.
Flip said, "No speak English."
No. So here we go again. This is why it's important for English to be your first language, Dre, because the difference. The difference.
You only have one language.
Can I finish? Can I?
He said it was like. It was like 25,000.
Exactly. Thank you, Stephen. It was like, the point I'm making is I don't
Like
know. I don't know the exact square footage. I said, but it's like 25,000 square. I'm trying to show how big without the actual knowledge. Come on now. I don't know how big that thing is. I'm just saying, bro, like, I got to give you a number, then I'm going to give you a number. This sucker was like.
Yeah, but when we argued you down, when we argued you
Trent don't know everything.
25,000 square feet is like over
Trent
a
don't
half
know.
of an acre. There's no
Hold on,
way.
let
And you
me
was like,
finish.
yes, Bubba, yes, it is.
Trent
Hold
don't
on,
know
let me
everything.
finish. Hold on, let me
Trent don't know everything.
Hey, not only did, first of all, I said, dude, I said the thing is huge. It's like 25,000 square feet. Okay, so I say that so you can at least have an idea that I'm not kidding, that it's
Thank
big.
you, Tori. Thank
Hold
you,
on.
Tori. I appreciate
Hold
you,
on.
Tori.
And then I said, okay, well, dude, I'm not saying, and then I said this, and for you to say I didn't say this, you're not being true. I said, okay, so 20,000. I said, okay, 20,000. And then I said, look, I said, I don't think I made it very clear. I said, even if it was 18,000, the point is it's huge. So when you found it and it was 12,000, again, it's huge for a Chinese buffet. It doesn't matter.
My beautiful descaled family in the morning. You guys just saw, you witnessed for yourself how Trot just spent that completely back into his favor. First, he said it was like 25,000, and then he admitted that it was like 20,000, and then he admits it's like 18,000. So little by little, he was digressing because he knew he over-exaggerated the point. And when it came down to 12,000, he says, "Well, man, I was in high school." That's not the point, buddy. The point is that you said
I was in high school. Hold on a second.
Let me
was
step up
in
in
high
defense
school.
of Trot. In Trot's defense, even like Ezekiel and John, they didn't fully understand things at a certain point. So when they was talking about it, they said like unto. You know, so
yeah. See, come on, man, come on. It's not hard. It's not hard, bro. It don't matter. Hey, let me say this. The whole point is, if you go eat at a Chinese restaurant, and it just so happens to be 12,000 square foot of buffet, don't tell me that's not huge. You're being intellectually dishonest if you say, no, that's not big. No, dude.
The point is that even your cousin was on the live, and I said, does he exaggerate? Has he always been an exaggerator? And she said, no comment. From the closest source.
But oh my, bro, how do you not know that that's what people say?
Source.
Hey, how do you not know that here in America, when you want to mess with someone, you say no comment just to mess with them, regardless if it's true or not? Come on, bro, stop.
No comment.
That sounds like a cop out. That's a cop out.
No.
Yeah.
No, man, listen here. Anyway, hey, I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. 12,000 square feet, Chinese buffet is huge. That's the point that I'm making. That is the whole point. And the other day, Dre, you said, well, no, that is big. So you've already agreed. Mission accomplished. Point proven.
But it's only like 2 times the size of your regular house.
I don't care. Hey, 12,000 square foot. 12,000 square foot. Buddy, 12,000 square foot Chinese buffet is
your
huge.
Whole front yard,
period.
bro.
That's my whole point. That was the whole point. The whole point is to tell you that in Austin, Texas, there is a Chinese buffet.
Trot,
a place
you said
where
it was so
I have
been.
been. Hold on a second. Hold on. And
lied.
the point is, it's huge. The point is, it was huge. Huge is the point. It is big, bro. So you're telling me now. So now you're telling me 12,000 square feet is not big for a buffet. You are not telling the truth. Nah, bro.
Remember when we
Stop.
asked him?
No.
Listen.
For somebody who is under, somebody who's under 6 foot tall.
Hold on.
Listen how Charlie's an exaggerator. We even asked him. We said, "Bro,
do a poll.
The whole restaurant?"
Do
He's
a
like,
poll.
"Oh no, Bubba, the restaurant was so big, I was scared I was gonna get lost."
Hey, but Dre, when you're under 6 foot tall,
right? When you're eye level with the food at the buffet, it probably looks 12,000.
I remember.
all, everything
Hey,
seems big. Okay.
hey, the owner came up and said, "How'd you get in here?" And I said, "Don't worry about how I got here. I want my Jello." Hey, hey, for real.
bro.
Somebody do check it out. Somebody do a poll, and the question needs to say, is a 12,000 square foot buffet huge? It's a yes or no. 1 minute. 1 minute, not a 5 minute. Not a 5
And
minute
mind
one.
you, 12,000 square feet is not the entire buffet. That's including the kitchen, the seating area, like everything, the inside, the lobby, the cash register, like all this is included in 12,000.
Okay,
It's not
so
12,000 square feet of food.
Dre, if you were to guess, and I'm not going to be like you with the red pen and hold you accountable. Just hear me out. If you were to guess about the square footage of the buffet area, what would you say that 12,000 square foot building, how big of square footage would the buffet be? If you were to guess, just guess.
4,000.
Okay. So first of all, that don't make no sense. So I'm going to say half. I'm going to say 6. So fine, put 6,000. If you walked into a Chinese buffet, Johnny said 250,000. If you walked in, come on, somebody make it. If you walked into, is a 6,000 square foot Chinese buffet huge? It's a yes or a no. Put 6,000. That way Dre doesn't get mad that the whole 12. First of all, it'd be bigger than that anyway. But we'll say 6,000.
Can you just put a number 1 on there on this chat if your brother has always been an exaggerator since he was a little boy?
Hey,
I know he was like the little boy from Old Yeller.
Hey,
He came outside and said he don't
and
wrangle
then
down
ask
a
him.
whole
Hold on a second. And then ask my brother, when I'm exaggerating, am I lying though? That's what you need to ask him. Am I lying? Nah.
An exaggeration is a lie. Has he always been an exaggerator?
Oh my Lord!
He makes everything bigger than what it is.
If I say that there's a 4-foot snake outside, and you go measure it, and you go, bro, it's 3.5 feet.
No,
bro, stop.
You would say,
stop it.
You would say it's a 10-foot snake outside, and you go out the bus.
No,
bro.
No. Hey, now ask my brother if I exaggerate about something. Ask him if it's true though. Ask him that.
Bro,
there's the difference.
What?
No, brother. Listen, let me say this.
And
I don't think you understand.
Some funky merchandise right now. You know that? You're selling some funky merchandise.
I need to educate you. Look, let me tell you something. In Texas, buddy, okay? So calm down. Obviously, you need to be educated because you don't know this. In Texas, Texas sarcasm is completely different than a lot of other. When a person from Texas is exaggerating, they're being sarcastic to prove a point. They're really not saying the snake is 10 foot, bro. That's not what they're really saying. They're just saying that to tell you there's a big snake. It's Texas sarcasm. So now that you're educated.
That's why the devil is so prevalent in Texas. Y'all make them big.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Everything is bigger in Texas. Look, my brother's telling you, bro. Everything's bigger in Texas.
Even the
bro.
lies.
It's a mindset.
Even the lies are bigger in Texas.
Now that you've been educated, look, next time you hear me over exaggerate, don't hold me to the fire and say, you said 25,000. Bro, it's big. Did somebody make the poll? Where's the poll at? Nobody made it? Is a 6,000 square foot.
Yeah, but now the barricade is in question because now you're. I don't know if you do it in 8 seconds or it's really 12 seconds because you exaggerate. You just said everything in Texas, people exaggerate. So Leo,
okay.
Big Leo's
Anyway,
not here.
Hey,
but now we don't know the truth, Leo.
All right, here we go. Is a 6,000 square foot Chinese buffet huge? Make the poll 1 minute. I just want a yes or no. That's all I want. Yes or no. Even though I know for a fact if that thing is
12,000 square foot Chinese buffet, that's big.
Of course that's big, but make a poll. I want to hear what everybody thinks. I want to hear, is it, and I want you to put huge. Is it huge? Yes or no?
No.
Anybody?
No.
No. Have y'all made the poll yet?
I just
said,
you know what, Trot? Don't listen to them.
Jesse, 6,000 square feet. That's the size of a Ponderosa in Florida. You kidding me? That's the size of Palacio de Jugos on Hialeah Street.
Jesse,
that's pretty average.
Hey, Jesse, let me say this. The place in question, okay, the building is 12,000. Now, listen, it says, come on, bro, 62% yes. Come on, bro. It's a no-brainer.
Anymore, man, bro.
No-brainer. Hey, and let me say this. It says 6,000 square feet. So let me say this real quick. Hold on. Let me say this real quick.
Bro, that is not that big. People have
Can
no
I
idea.
finish talking?
Like,
Hey,
when you're
can I
talking
finish
about
talking?
a house being 6,000 square feet
Hello. Can
for
I
a
finish
restaurant,
talking?
that's not that big, bro.
Can I finish talking, bro? Please. All right. First of all, let me say this. It says, hey, Dre, why don't you pull it up so we can read exactly what it says? What is it calling 12,000 square feet exactly? The building or the buffet?
The whole building is 12,000 square feet.
Pull it up. Pull it up.
You know
Prove
what
it.
it is? You know what
Pull
it
it
is,
up.
Dre? It's like in Venezuela and Colombia. When you go to the ranchos, they're like, what, 20,000 square feet?
Right.
100 square feet? I mean, they're like crazy big. So most people here in the United States don't even get that. That's what it is. Because we're used to seeing that. They're not. I went to a
All
place
right.
in Colombia.
Dre, you going to pull
The
it up or
place
what?
had to be over 100.
Hold
It
on.
was crazy big. I mean, you fit like 300-400 people in there or more. Crazy big.
He said big type. Okay. All right, so I'm in my belly about this. That's fine. So check this out. Dre, pull it up. Are you going to find it?
There's like 20 restaurants, 12,000 square feet in Colorado. But I was trying to pull it up in Google, but I'm going to have to go to.
Why don't you Google average size for Chinese buffet?
Panda Express is like 6,000 square foot,
Average
bro.
size is probably
Thank
about
you.
6,000 square feet. He's right.
Thank you, Flip. See, you have a reference of what square footage looks like.
Hey, Flip, what is 6,000 square feet?
That's like Panda Express in a mall.
Okay. So the whole building is 6,000 square feet?
Well, yeah, the building itself.
So
If
let
you're
me
talking
ask you
about,
this. Let me ask you this. If the building is 6,000 square feet, how big is the eating area? How many square footage would you say the eating area is?
It's probably like a quarter the size.
Which would be what? I need the answer from you. I know how to do math, but
well, 6,000 square foot divided by a quarter, that's probably
I know, but I want you to give me the answer. I know how to do math, but I want
It's
you to give me the answer.
I'd say like
about
2,500 square foot.
No, Jess, 25% of 6,000 is not 4,000. No.
No, I'm not saying that
Flip.
number.
Hold on a second.
I'm giving my own number that the eating area should be
Okay,
about
Flip.
4,000.
What is 25? What is 25% of 6,000 square feet?
That's 1,500, sir.
Okay, so is 1,500, is that big for a buffet? I'm talking about where only the food is.
No.
Okay,
Well,
so
no,
let me
that's small.
Okay. So listen. First of all, Dre made up the number 6,000. I don't know why you're believing it. Look, I don't know if it's saying the building is 12,000 or if the buffet is 12,000.
It says spanning a 12,000 square feet King buffet is practically a warehouse filled with nothing but food.
Okay.
So the building
is there a reason why you don't have it? Hey, put it on the screen, bro.
Bro, I don't lie like you do, sir.
Pull it on the screen.
There it is, right there.
Hey,
Okay,
Panda Express, bro. I told you.
Man, I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Y'all have to be kidding me. It says spanning a whopping 12,000 square foot King buffet. So my question is the buffet 12,000 square feet?
The restaurant is called King Buffet, bro. The restaurant is called King Buffet. It's not the buffet 12,000 square feet.
Is there can I finish?
Go ahead.
Can I finish talking?
Go ahead.
Are you done?
Go ahead.
Well, quit talking. All right.
How did you go from the Bible to King Buffet, man?
Hey, Jess, you don't realize you make it worse? Like, I'm trying to, let me just finish this. Look, come on, let me and Dre finish our bedaggling. Listen, it's real simple. If the building is 6,000 square foot, I mean, 12,000 square feet. You're saying you can't imagine that the buffet is 7,000 or 8,000 square feet, bro? You can't imagine that?
Absolutely not. You got to think about the kitchen.
Okay.
You got to think about the refrigerators. You got to think about the seating area. You got to think about the lobby. You got to.
Hey, are you done?
What you talk? You think that there's 12,000 square feet of food on the floor?
Dre, what's that song? What's that song in that movie Frost?
Let it go. Let it go.
Thank you.
All right. I mean, I'd love to be done, but for some reason, Dre's not. Okay, Dre. So,
I'm done.
Even if
I'm done. This is,
are you? No, you're not.
A done deal,
right, go ahead.
bro.
Go ahead.
This is a done deal, bro.
Mm-hmm.
This is
right.
It's a nice sized restaurant, but you made it seem like it was Casa Bonita in Colorado or something.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Dre, you got to understand his stature makes it look like it's double from what it is.
Listen, the poll came in, and I'll let you have, just for argument's sake, I'll let you have 6,000, but you didn't go out there and measure it, so you don't know how big the buffet is. That's ridiculous. Look, we'll say 6,000 just for argument's sake. Okay, so you can put your red pin down already.
Sake, you wanted to be half the size.
Listen, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The poll was clear. Almost 90% of the people agreed that even if the buffet itself was 6,000 square feet, that is huge as far as buffets go. Period. The end. So it is over. So let it go at this point.
You are wrong, sir. And the fact of the matter is.
Okay. Hey, y'all hear that? 90% of y'all are wrong. Y'all are all wrong.
Bro, listen,
bro, why are we still talking about? Are you done?
Bro, listen, you're live. You get babied on your live. You know that. We've already had this conversation. Don't pick on Trot. Leave Trot alone. Poor Trot.
Hold on. Let me pull my violin out.
The bully. hey. I ain't gonna lie, though. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna stop. I ain't gonna lie.
My Lord. No, you're not.
Listen. I think Bill has a point. Yeah. When you are eye level with the food, you probably just saw a sea of food because that's all you saw at your eye level. But if you were a little taller, you probably would have seen the tables and the kitchen and the workers and the bathrooms. Imagine that. Bathrooms are included in square footage. So you think they have a one toilet with all that food? No, they probably had 10 toilets in each bathroom.
Bro, we're still talking about this? Bro, I left and came back. You're still on this?
Tripping.
The buffet table went for miles. Miles where my eyes could not see. My eyes could not see.
Bro, it was, like I said, we'll let Dre have it. 6,000 square feet of buffet food. 90% of people already agreed it was huge. Conversation over. Steve, what's going on, Steve? What's going on?
I was going to say the engineers that designed it, that they were Christians, and one of them challenged them to go one more mile with them, so they made it that much bigger.
That's right. Exactly what they did. 100%.
Yeah.
In the words of Yoda.
In the
words of Yoda, wrong you are, Trots.
And regardless whether you're wrong or right, you'll stand by it.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome.
He gonna stand by it for sure.
Oh, the internet proved it. It's 12,000 square feet. It's already been proven. Conversation over.
All right. I gotta go. If I'm in Austin, I got family in Austin, so I gotta go see it.
It seems like a big diarrhea bar. So if I were you,
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Stephen. If you end up going, all I want is your perspective.
Pull out your
photos. Hey, take photos and just say yes or no if it's big. That's it. That's all that matters. I'll
have one of those measuring wheels, and I'll have my brother videotape.
Yeah, you do that too. Matter of fact, hey, take 2 of them in case the first one fails.
You just broke the ceiling tile.
Drop could never be wrong.
12,000 feet is not wrong. It's big. Period.
That is
period. Big. Period. The end. All right. So, let me see.
Exaggerator, Trot is.
Are you done? Let me sit back. I'm gonna drink some coffee. Y'all go ahead. Talk about the restaurant.
No, that was just the Yoda. Exaggerator, Trot is.
My Lord have mercy.
All right,
I
verse
think we all
46, man.
exaggerate a little bit when we get excited about something.
No. Trot flat out exaggerated by
Hey,
like
the
25,000 square feet, bro. Like seriously, he went over and above on his
hey
exaggeration.
hey it would okay. Let me explain something. I'm sorry I have to do this, Trey. I'm so sorry, but there's a lot of people that I know personally that live in other countries, right? And they go stay there for 3 months, 4 months, and they realize that they didn't do a whole lot of research before they moved wherever they went. And they realize, like, man, like none of my jokes are funny anymore, right? Because nobody understands the joke, right? So before they know it, you start looking for what's called expats, expatriates. And these are people that are Americans. Because when you tell whoever from that country, and I'm just saying Donatello, Ninja Turtle. If you say, man, that guy looks like Donatello from the Ninja Turtles, and you and whoever's with you is laughing, but the other 8 at the table have no idea what you're talking about, you start missing home pretty quickly. And one thing that I've learned, thank God I was in a service all those years, is there's people that don't understand certain things that Americans do, especially from Texas. And I have noticed from the time that we've met that you still don't comprehend the reason why people exaggerate. You think that they're lying to you. That's not what they're trying to do. So I'm going to say this one more time, and I'm going to leave it alone from here on out because clearly you're not getting it. When people from America or Texas exaggerate, they're not trying to lie to anyone. They're just trying to prove a point about something they're saying, and they really don't believe that the exaggeration that they're claiming, they're not believing that that's the truth, nor are they trying to make anyone else believe that. But to a person from America in Texas that understands this, they don't get a hard time from that person because that person already understands why there's an exaggeration. They already know. They don't say, wow, why are you exaggerating? They just laugh because they get the sarcasm. They understand. I'm very sadly to say that it hurts me deeply that I even have to explain this. But since it has to be explained, it has been explained, and I fully understand why exaggerations are lies to people who are not traditionally expats from this country. But I'll add this to end it. It is all okay. All is well. Fear not.
Trot Air
Have no worries.
That looked like Trot Air 222, boy, because he took off on that.
Yeah, well, sometimes things have to be said. But it's all right.
So the question is now, did you actually read the Bible 12 to 15 hours a day for 5 years, or is that an exaggeration?
No,
he did a fantasy.
actually...
He read the Bible 500 times.
500 times? Yeah, no.
Me reading fantasy, he read the children's version with the pictures.
No, 12 to 15 hours a day is 100% 12 to 15 hours a day. And the reason why I'm putting 12 to 15 hours a day, because not all of it was 12 hours and not all of it was 15. There was some in between, but it was 12 to 15, and that doesn't have to be questioned. That is not a exaggeration. That is the actual hours, just for your...
What I want to know is what moved you to do it other than God.
Well, I never read it, right? I don't know. I think sometimes, oh man, where's my, oh, I think my phone's about to die. Hold on a second. Yep, give me a minute.
Bruh.
Flip, I guess it was 25,000 square feet after all, whether we prove them wrong or not.
I don't know, man. That seems way too big for a restaurant.
I don't even think Texas Roadhouse is that big.
Have you guys
Hey,
ever been
Texas
to
Roadhouse is
Buc-ee's gas
bomb.
station?
Hey, Dre, it's time to sing. Holy Spirit, activate.
Espíritu
Oh, bro.
Santo, actívate.
I was like
Espíritu
that. Trots said
Santo.
that Chinese restaurant bigger than TD Jakes Church, Bubba.
Yep. There. Hey, see? Now you
And it
get
had
it.
and it
Yes.
had two floors.
Now you
And it had two
Yep.
floors.
All right, so I got
Yeah,
to get
see.
two birds with one stone here because y'all are just fighting over this thing. So, what do you call a Star Wars themed buffet?
A what? A Star Wars themed buffet?
Yeah.
Star Wars themed buffet.
Forced.
Where's the punchline? Hello.
He actually gives us a moment to see if we can figure it out.
Well, Trot forces me to give a moment. The force is with him.
Let me see. I like to take a stab at it. Let me see. Star Wars theme buffet. It's Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. Yeah, there you go.
And just
See,
hey,
that's good. That was good.
And
Start
just
the
so
week
you
off
know,
like that.
I
That's
don't
good.
just want everybody to know I don't Google any of this. I really do try to figure it out. It's no fun to ask Google to try to find answer. I like to try to figure it out myself.
So, Dre, what's going to happen now is there's going to be a new buffet opening in Texas that's going to be 24,000 square feet. It's going to be called Boba Fett.
Either that or
Fett.
forced.
Trot's
And
going
we're gonna make it 25,000 square feet. Yeah, no, Steven, to answer your question, I had to go get my cord. I didn't realize my phone was that low. But anyway, no, I never read it, and I've ran into a lot of people who, they just get to a certain age where I guess maybe they're more prudent. Like, they become more prudent or more aware, like more understanding. And so they just start asking themselves, hey, I wonder why have I not personally read the Bible? And I think everybody has to get to that point where you just say, wait a minute, why am I listening to everybody about this? Like, why am I not reading it myself? So that's what started. And, months or even a year would go by and I would say it to myself again, like, why am I not reading this thing right here? Like, I don't understand. And so I'm not sure how to explain it other than that question constantly popping up in my head. One day I just said, you know what, because I have obviously I have time now to do this, I retired at 37. I'm not saying that everyone that is retired is to do this, but before my retirement, I was able to say to myself, you know what, I'm going to read it myself. And I'm not going to lie, the only reason that I was going to read it was just to read it. I didn't think anything about it. I didn't have Jesus didn't show up. There was no extraordinary thing that occurred, man. Nothing extraordinary occurred. All I did is I just decided that I'm going to read it. That's it. It's really that simple.
Would it be advantageous to suppose that maybe something supernatural did occur while you were reading it 12 to 15 hours a day for 5 years?
Well, I'm talking about before I read it. There was no extraordinary thing. All it was a choice. I'm talking about when I finally started reading it, right? I just decided to do it. And I remember saying to myself multiple times throughout a few years, man, I need to read this thing for myself, but I just quote unquote couldn't find the time. That's not true. People that say they don't have time, it's not true. It's not easy to only focus on that at first because there's so many other things you can, put your time in. But I say this all the time. I don't care where you are. I don't care who you are. I'm telling you, everybody, no matter where you are, you have 24 hours. And whatever you do with that 24 hours, that is up to you. So people who are trying to make excuses. And now I understand if you got kids, you're married. I get that. I understand. You may not have, 12 to 15 hours a day, but you work 8, 10, or 12 hours a day. And there are some people that they have a job where they can put an earpiece in and they can at least have the Bible read to them. So the technology we have these days, to be honest with you, it's just hard for me to believe that the majority of people can't do this. I understand that there are people that cannot. I get it. Okay. I'm just saying you got to check your own self on this. And I checked myself and I said, you know what? I'm going to read it. It's a choice. I don't care where you are. It's a choice. And so I picked it up. I read it and I didn't understand, like the stories in the Bible like I thought. I just kind of heard what the stories were, and that's what I knew. So I read the Bible in 1 year. I want to say I read it, I don't remember the exact number. It could have been 5 times. I don't remember the exact number, but I know that I needed to read it over and over again. And first of all, let me say this. When I say read the Bible, I'm not talking about the Psalms. I'm not talking about the Proverbs. I'm not talking about the begattins where it's like 8 pages of and so begat so-and-so and so-and-so begat. I didn't read none of the begattins. Oh, hold on. Somebody. I read all the stories. I started off reading all the big stories. And the second time, there was a few things that I missed that I didn't think were actual stories. And so I went and picked some of those up. The very first time I read the Bible, I didn't read Chronicles because it didn't seem, I don't know, it just didn't seem it correlated well with the Bible. But again, I was new at this. So the second time I threw Chronicles and I can't remember I threw something else that I missed out. But at this point, I still didn't read the Psalms, Proverbs, or the begattins. And so the third time I read it that year, I started off with Psalms and Proverbs. And then I went back to the very beginning. And when I got to the begattins, I said, hey, I'm going to read every one of these names. And so that's when I did it. So then I read it 2 more times. When I read it the 5th time, I literally, anybody can do this, but I knew the names of the characters of which story. I was no longer confused on who did what and why. And I understood the Bible like a movie. I understood that. And so that's when I studied it, the whole Old Testament. Right after that same year is when I started studying the Old Testament in Hebrew. I studied the whole thing. I literally looked up every word in the Old Testament utilizing a Strong's Concordance. That's when I started learning the Hebrew. And then I started learning the letters, each individual letter in Hebrew while I was studying that. Then I went to the New Testament. I did the whole thing in Greek, utilizing a Strong's Concordance. Again, this is just me starting off. And the second year is when I started going deeper in the Hebrew, deeper in the Greek, just to understand why certain words are used. That's when I found out the word sozo in the New Testament. I learned that the word is used for salvation and healing, which was really odd to me at first. I never heard anyone say that, but I noticed that the word sozo, when someone is receiving a healing, the word sozo is used. And I'm like, that's weird. That's the same word being used for salvation. And so you're able to kind of put together some things that normally people separate. They separate someone being physically healed with someone being spiritually saved. They separate it because we use 2 different words. One is healed, one is saved. But in the Greek, it's the same word, sozo, right? And so it helps correlate some things when you're able to do that. So So in my second year, I literally just tore into the to Hebrew language, to the Greek language, and that's when I saw again that one of the words that's used for good news, that's being used there. It's not like even some of the books in the Greek books, you don't even see this word for good news or the gospel. You don't see the Greek word in other books. You only see it when it's a type of news that's too good to be true. So the word that was used to describe the gospel, good news, the word that's used in the Greek, it's a word you hardly ever see in writings. It's not as prevalent as just good news, right? Because there's other words that say, oh, that was good news. So-and-so came to the house and gave me good news. You see those words. But the word that's used for the gospel, it literally means too good to be true news. So there again, it was a different type of meaning. And so into my third year after I just literally just dove into this thing is when I first saw that Jesus was the tree of life. That was one of the first eye openers that I saw, which was weird because you kind of want to denounce it because it doesn't tell you that way, but yet you can see it in some weird way. And I was like, wow, I wonder why I'm thinking that Jesus is the tree of life. That's kind of weird because you got to understand, I've always been taught that it's just trees. And I didn't understand the Bible in like stages, I guess. I didn't see it as being a baby and then you mature. And I didn't see the Bible that way. I didn't see it like that at all. And so not until I started understanding that when we become born again, we are babies, and then we have to grow and become weaned on meat. I didn't understand. I read that 2-3 times, 4 times, multiple times, actually, but I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. So that third year is when I started seeing things that are not actually quote unquote there. And so I tell people all the time, especially people that are saying things like, oh, well, you're just putting things in scripture. Nobody has a problem. I've not met one person that's a Christian that has a problem talking about the dove representing the Spirit. I don't have anybody having a problem with that. And so when I flip that on them and I go, okay, well, how do you know that? How do you know the dove is a spirit? The majority of people can't even show you. They can't even show you how they know that. So they go to scripture and they're like, right here, says it right here, right here. And I go, is that it? And they all bring up the same 2 or 3 verses. They can't bring up any other verse. I said, well, it's in the Bible more than that. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know, but that's what a lot of things have been passed down through culture to a lot of us, and we don't even know where it came from. This is right here is showing that not everybody has a personal relationship with God. You're just believing by the hearing of the ear, like Job. Job knew of God by the hearing of the ear, which means rumor. You go study that in the Hebrew. It means he knew God by rumors. That's how he knew God. And then at the end, he said, but now my eye seeth thee now. So in the end of the chapter 40, what?
Try in Isaiah 53, talking about the tree, is one of the scriptures that I used this weekend. It says, Isaiah 53, it starts off with this, and people miss it again. In verse 2, it says, for he shall grow up before him as a tender plant. Talking about Jesus, a plant. Yeah. He is the plant. And then when you look at that word plant in the original Hebrew, it's actually a small tree or a twig. So he was planted as a baby tree, but it's still the tree. The reference is there, is what I'm saying. It's clear as day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. It is there. And but there are some that are not as much there as you would like,
No, my point is that there are clear ones, but people since they haven't been taught their whole life like the dove, they don't see it because it wasn't taught to them like the dove. So, whatever preacher or denomination they belong to, they never taught that. So therefore it can't be true because somebody else saw it and they didn't, basically.
Yeah. That's exactly what happens. Go ahead.
I got a question with that, Zozo. That's also, I was looking into that. That's on with the scapegoat, right? The two lambs, and the scapegoat was called Zozo.
What are you in the Old Testament or New Testament?
Old Testament. When they would do the two sacrifices.
So the word sozo is a Greek word. It's in the New Testament.
Correct. It's also I believe it's in the old. If you do on the 2 lambs, the one that was taken to the wilderness and released, I believe they will call that Zozo if you go into the deep detail. I'll go
Well,
back
yeah,
to
no,
that.
I'm
I haven't
sure. I'm
studied it in
sure.
a minute.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's okay. So there's going to be words that because a lot of words come from different languages, right? So I'm not saying that it's not the word. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just referring to the Greek word that is sozo. So when you go study the origin of all that, it's going to lead back to a lot of languages, and some of it's going to be Hebrew. So yeah, there are some instances in the Old Testament that are going to lead back to that. I just don't want to cause confusion and start using the word sozo in both the Hebrew and the Greek because there, obviously there are people that don't know the difference. So, but so
Also, it's also a deity and Greek mythology thing,
well, I
and
mean,
also used in
yeah, but
demonic. So that's
yeah,
why.
but
Yeah.
Greek mythology is going to use the word sozo somewhere because it's Greek language. I mean,
Are you trying to cause
Okay.
confusion, Bill? Is that your goal?
No. I'm trying not to cause confusion, brother. Trying not to cause it.
So then,
yeah,
long story short, is you read the
yeah. Okay,
Bible
so
for like sometimes 15 hours a day, and then what?
Oh,
You
long
saw.
story short, that does not exist in trans vocabulary, sir.
So then,
Sorry.
so you
oh
read the
my
Bible, you
lord.
studied
Thanks,
it,
Hebrew. We try to deflect them and digress them, and there you go, feeding
and then you
it.
saw like what, like a 12,000 square foot buffet.
Yeah, that's right. So there was this 25,000 square foot buffet that I once talked about. Nah, but anyway, the tree of life was like the first thing, and and here's the thing, I didn't believe it when I saw it. Okay, and I'm going to use the word saw or heard or understood. You can use whatever word you want, but when I saw that Jesus was the tree of life, I didn't proclaim it because I didn't understand the way that I was receiving it because no one's sitting there. No one told me that. So your carnal mind, the fowl of the air is like, nah, man, like what? Like, nah, I don't, I wasn't saying no. It's just, you're kind of like, well, you just kind of bypass it because you're not understanding the way that you're seeing it. You're not used to seeing that way. I don't know any other way to explain it. I wasn't used to understanding something without reading it that way. Like if it would have said, and Jesus is the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, and Jesus, then it's easier to believe. But that's not how it says it. It doesn't tell you that way. It tells you in a different way. And so maybe a month went on, maybe, where it popped in my head again. And I'm like, man, why do I keep thinking that? And I said, hold on. And it's like other verses will come to you and you're like, wait a minute. When Jesus came, and I don't want to go through every little thing that happened, but multiple scriptures just came to me that I've already read. And it was like, wait a minute, this is what's showing me the fact that it's everywhere in the Bible. And when I finally started thinking really hard on it, like, yeah, but why would that pop in my head that way? And I remember going over the bitter water where it says, and God showed Moses a tree. And when Moses cast it in, I said, that's weird. And then that's when I started paying attention to things that seem insignificant. Like when I was reading the Bible the first few times, there was nothing significant at all. It was just stories. But the more I meditated and went over it, everything that was little and meant nothing, all of a sudden meant everything. Matter of fact, it meant the most. So like my viewpoint completely flipped from what you think naturally would be important. Now it literally went backwards. Everything that you thought wasn't important, those are the things that start being important. I don't know. Other than that, I don't know how to explain how it is, but that's just how Christ authored the word, because everything is perfect in the other direction. It's perfect. It lines up perfectly.
The smallest becomes the greatest.
Yeah, but is there anybody that's got something to discuss, or if there's somebody that wants to come up? I don't see anybody that wants to come up, but
yeah. Biggest thing that I'm trying to do is be ready for a defense of my faith, and like I haven't followed orthodoxy or accepted anything beyond the 66 books that I've been presented growing up. And I've been asked by some Orthodox people, like, how do you know that you're not leaving out, some of the canon? Like, why was all that turned out, And like, I can do some historic research, like why did the Reformation take place and whatnot. And, church history would be good for me. But until then, I would like to have an explanation. I'm kind of curious what your response would be to that question.
Explanation to what exactly?
Why you read a 66 book canon and not a 78 book canon or, some other
81, like I think it's Ethiopian is the largest one, right? If I'm correct.
Right. And was, one of the original churches, to be honest,
Yeah. So, man, to be honest, that's such an easy thing to answer. Now, if it's going to be understood or not, that's the other part. But the answer is actually really simple. So, let's talk about. I know we only got so much time left, but let's talk about God for just a second, right? Because this is the discussion. We're talking about God. I guess the question would be this: is it important for an individual to have a relationship with God or not?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There are because you're bringing up Catholics, and I've met plenty.
Or Orthodox.
And a lot of them, they don't have personal relationships with God.
Right.
So here's my question. What is hindering Catholics from not having a personal relationship with God? That is actually the good question. If what they're claiming is they have all the information, well, then how come every time I meet one of you guys, they don't have their own personal relation because they got all the information? What's hindering them? That is the question that I always start with. So when people say, well, who said that it's hindered, brother? All I got to do is talk to one of you guys for 5 seconds. You're over here trying to make me believe that because y'all have, quote unquote, all the books, that means that all of y'all have a intimate personal relationship.
Broke up.
Oh, do what now?
You broke up for a second.
Yeah. So again, if it was based on all the books, my question would be, how come all of them don't have a personal relationship with God? And what I mean by that is when I talk to them about the Bible, how come they don't understand what they're talking about? You know what they do? They go grab one of the books that their quote unquote forefathers wrote and say, well, he said, no, brother. I'm not asking what someone else said. What do you say? Jesus said, who do people say that I am? Everybody has to answer that question by themselves. You can't say he said. So this is not an attack against a denomination like Catholics. It's still a denomination. This is not an attack against them. I am talking about anybody, any human. And because in the denomination, the Catholic denomination, there are humans there. So I'm not going to not ask them the same question. I ask every human, who do you say that Jesus is? And they go, oh, well, he's the Messiah, the Son. Okay, good. Now, the next question is he the tree of life? How is it that every denomination, there are so many people that they don't know to say yes right away? Why not? What is hindering you from seeing this? A lot of times people want to believe that their gang, right? Their gang, right? We got gangs in America. They go around stealing and unaliving. Just because you call your denomination part of a church doesn't mean you're not part of a gang. You just want to be part of something. Look, the Bible makes it clear that there are two types of bellies in this world. There's bellies that people worship, meaning their own will, their own emotions. And Christ tells us, believers in me, out of their belly will flow rivers of living water, out of their belly. So when someone is focused on just being part of something, then you're not part of God, because you just want to be part of something. So when someone says, well, the thing that I'm so it's so comical, the thing that I'm part of, we have all the information. Well, that's funny. What's hindering y'all from bringing everyone alive then? Like, what's the problem? Because every time I meet, and I'm talking about all denominations. Every time I meet someone from your group or denomination, they're dry. Where's the living water that the Bible says believers in me, their belly will flow rivers of living water? And Christ said, you'll know that they're my disciple because they love one another. And so we start going through these, and then we get to one that says, in my name, you will do this. And it says, open the eyes, open the deaf ears. He starts talking about things that believers will do. And it's like, man, that's funny. This person has been in your denomination for 10 years, and I haven't met one person that they've opened their eyes. Not one in 10 years. And so when we say, oh, well, whose eyes have you opened? And they're like, okay, are you talking physical or spiritual? There's a lot of debates that go in a lot of directions. But I'm telling you right now, the spiritual eyes is what needs to be open. The spiritual eyes. It's important for the spiritual eyes to be open. Why is it that the importance of physical eyes, how is that overriding spiritual sight, when the spiritual sight is how you have intimate relationship with Christ, not physical sight? So if somebody is physically blind and you say, oh, Jesus said you'll open the eyes. So now the goal is to get someone's physical eyes to be open.
Trot, let me interrupt you real quick.
Go ahead.
I got to drop off. I got a staff meeting at 9 a.m. on Zoom, so I'm going to have to jump off right now so that I can get ready for this call. So God bless y'all. I'll see y'all in the morning.
All right, have a good one.
Ciao, ciao.
Yeah, Trot, just real quick with what you're saying. I saw somebody asking that question too, because they were talking about the book Tobit, and talking about how everybody who has a 66-book Bible doesn't even know about the Archangel Raphael. And I'm thinking, well, how does that get you closer to a relationship with God, by knowing about?
Yeah, and I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that point about all these other books. Okay, I'm getting there slowly, because there's no point on getting to a type of question like this very quickly. There's no point, because there's so much going on to the answer itself. So again, if the 66 books weren't enough, this is the question. Like, it is bonkers to me that a Catholic person would use the argument that a Islamic believer or an atheist person would use against a Christian.
Amen.
If you think about it just for a little bit, there's only one entity that would get you to argue this most ridiculous carnal question about the books, and it's Satan.
Brother, that's why I came up here. Sorry.
Yeah, give me a second. So Satan is the only one that would point the finger and say that you lack something. The Bible makes it clear we don't lack a thing. I got Christ living on the inside of me. Where do I lack something? And they go, oh, you don't have all the books. Oh, that's funny. That's not what the Bible tells me. They said those who are free indeed. So is that enough in that one book? Or do I need another 500 books to tell me that? Well, how many books do I need until I believe? When someone is looking for more books, that means that their carnal mind is still not pleased with what God has put spiritually in the other books. So I tell people all the time, if you're carnally minded, you'll know it, because you still believe that you have to find missing books. So go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, so the whole spirit and purpose behind why I want the best response to this question is because of 1 Corinthians 1:10, Paul exhorting us to agree with one another. I know that he and Peter disagreed sometimes. As you know, it's easier to say something than it is to practice it. But being of one body, the whole. Somebody told me Catholic actually means universal. Well, with what some people that are calling themselves churches today, I don't consider them part of the church if they're, you know, marrying people that shouldn't be married, you know, or going against the Bible basically in any way and teaching it as a doctrine, you know, just blind guides.
Yeah.
In the interest of us coming together and being able to agree on, number one, the gospel, but number two, is it possible that there's more than one church? I mean, there's more than one mentioned in Revelation, right?
No, those are different.
Well, hold on
Those are the
a second.
pastors.
Hold on, Jess, hold on. Hey, Steve. All right. So, and Jess, you know, we're not going to go through there. So, I understand why you're saying what you're saying in the book of Revelation, Stephen. I get it. But let me tell you something that I've learned. There are certain topics that if you're not careful, you'll just end up arguing for about 5 days about it. Okay. And I'm going to tell you.
Sure I'm really good at picking hornets.
Yeah. So let me tell you the book of Revelation. All right. And it boggles my mind, you know, and I don't care what anyone thinks. I really did read the Bible. I studied it for 12 to 15 hours a day for 5 years. That is a fact. I did do that. And let me tell you something that I learned in my read. First of all, let me say this. Is anybody really going to say in all that time I didn't read the book of Revelation? Really? Listen, I did. And let me tell you very carefully something that I understood about it. And it didn't take me very long to start seeing it. The book of Revelation says a lot of things, and because of our carnal mind, it could say a lot of things in 12 different directions. And so within seconds, you can have 500 people in here, and every one of them will tell you it's saying something different. Right. And the reason that this happens is because all you have to do, I could talk to every one of these people individually, and they don't even understand what's happened in the garden. I take everybody back to the garden and I say, hey, okay, what happened in the garden? And I'm like, bro, that's not what happened. And so here we are pointing the finger, arguing about what the Bible says. And Bubba, you won't see me in the room longer than 10 seconds because this is nothing new to me. When I started understanding the book of Revelation, I literally had to sit down. Because in order to understand like one thing that's in the book of Revelation, like a lot of the stuff that I talk about, a lot of that first has to be understood in order for one thing in the book of Revelation to even make sense. And so these people have no idea how to read the Old Testament, and they rush to the book of Revelation and they're like, oh, this means that. And I'm like, bro, I'm not even going to say no. Have a good one. I'm out. Like, it took me a minute to understand some of the things in the book of Revelation, but that's because it took me so long. I mean, call me dumb. It just took me a long time to understand what was even taking place in the Old Testament. It took me a long time. And when I started understanding it, I started understanding the book of Revelation more. And so I went through there, I tore into it, and I'm like, oh my Lord. Like, you want to talk about being humble? I knew for a fact I am never talking to anybody about the book of Revelation unless I really feel led to do so. If I don't feel led to do it, it's not going to happen. And I'm so glad I was able to see that for what it was, because that's what people, they like to debate and argue over Revelation, over water baptism, over Trinity, and the reason that they're arguing about it, it's not because they want to do it for the Lord. It's none of that. It's because there's things in the Old Testament they do not understand. And so they believe that when someone wants to debate and argue about these things, they have their own idea on why they're doing it, you know? And so it's not about pointing a finger at anybody. Everybody's got their own walk. But I've learned very quickly, it is not about debating and arguing with anybody. It's not about that. People are either going to read the Bible and learn for themselves because it's right there. It's kind of like sitting at a table and everybody's got a plate of food in front of them and they keep saying they're hungry. And I'm like, bro, what do you just eat? Yeah. Just eat right there what's in front of you. And they're like, man, you don't understand. But but I'm so hungry. And I'm like, oh, my Lord. And, once that gets put in proper, but once that gets put in proper perspective, you can actually see what the problem is. It is not because we have 10 missing books that everybody's not one accord. No. Your carnal mind is never going to be in one accord. And everybody thinks that it's the carnal mind that needs to be. So if I disagree with what you're saying, well, we're not in one accord. And then that means the Bible's a liar. And it's like, oh my goodness, bro.
Goodness. Yeah.
No. Oh my goodness.
They
no.
See everything backwards.
Yeah. So, that's not, the Bible is not here so we can figure out where we disagree. That's not why the Bible's here. But back to the 66 books thing. Okay. You can give me any book. I don't care what book it is, just one. And I'll tell you the truth that one book tells you everything that all 80 books say. The one book. The problem is people don't know how to read it. That's the problem. It's not about understanding the letters on the white page. When people want
it's
more
the only
books,
book that blind men can read.
It's the exactly. It's the only one. So carnally, right, the majority of us here in this live are not physically blind. But people don't understand that our spiritual sight was taken away from us. It happened in the Garden of Eden when it tells us that, and their eyes were open. Their eyes were open to carnality, to what we see now here. But spiritually, their eyes were taken away from them. If you don't understand that Samson is a shadow of Christ, and he says to the lad, put one of my hands on one pillar and put my other hand on the other pillar. And then he talks to God and he says, give me revenge this time for my eyesight or my two eyes that were taken from me. This is a shadow of Christ talking about the sight. The sight of the people have been taken away. So when he says, give me revenge for my two eyes. Look, Samson, in reality, yes, his physical eyes were taken away from him, but this is a shadow of Christ crying out to have his eyesight restored back in us. And how do we know this is true? Because it's not just there. When Samson says, let me die with the Philistines, or let me become unalived with the Philistines, when you go study it in Hebrew, he says, let my soul die with the Philistines. The Bible makes it clear that God's soul was offered for us. And the problem is it is hard for them to understand that Samson is a shadow of Christ. The Bible tells us that Christ became unalived with sinners. The Philistines represent sinners in the Old Testament. When they said, bring Samson out that we may make sport of him, that word sport in Hebrew means mock. The spirit is always mocked by the flesh. They brought him out to mock him. Why? Because he's a shadow of Christ. So they mocked him. And when he pushed the pillars down and everybody became unalived, he laid there unalived with sinners, just like the actual Jesus did. These things is the problem. People do not see these, but yet they're crying that we don't have all the books. No, brother, you don't have your sight. That's the problem. And you're going around thinking that all the denominations are the problem. No, we're all in this together. Ain't none of us the problem. The problem happened in the garden. And the problem is you individually, your eyes have not been open. If they've been open, you wouldn't be arguing for 10 days on TikTok. If they were open, you would see. And your focus would be going around opening people's eyes. That would be your focus, but your focus is arguing about baptism, Trinity, once saved, always saved. The reason that these topics are always argued about is because people are not focused on opening the eyes of other people. And I say this all the time, you cannot give something you don't have. Do you know why more Christians are not opening the eyes, spiritual eyes of other Christians? Because their eyes haven't been opened themselves. That's the problem. It's not about how many books we need, that we're missing books. No. The story of Samson. Samson is a shadow of Christ. How many times have you heard people talk about, or better yet, you yourself, you read the Bible, and you read the black letters on the white page, you go to the story of Samson and you get to Delilah, and you're like, oh man, we're going to get to this part of Samson and Delilah. And we're reading it, and it says that Delilah said to Samson, why do you lie to me? You don't love me. If you love me, you tell me the truth. And he tells her, look, she's like, how does your strength leave? He said, if you take brand new ropes that's never been used and bind me with them, I'll become weak as any other man. She does it. The Philistines come. He breaks out of it. And she says, you lied to me. And she's like, how do I take your strength? He goes, okay, well, if you bind me with fresh ropes, then a 7, I think one of them is 7. He goes, it was 7 green ropes. Then I'll become weak as any other man. And the Philistines come, he breaks out of it, and then he's like, okay. And she's like, you lied to me these 2 times. The whole time, Delilah's calling him a liar because she doesn't understand what he's saying. Samson's not lying to her. It's not a coincidence that Samson, when he meets people, the first Gentile woman, first of all, is it a coincidence that Samson's always in love with Gentile women? Is that a coincidence too?
No.
Isn't the bride of Christ made of Gentiles? Doesn't he love the Gentiles also? So it's just a coincidence that out of all these things that I'm saying about Samson, it's just a coincidence. Or that's how Jesus authored. And watch this. They're not just stories. Samson was a real man. And you're going to sit here and tell me that in a real man story, all these things are just coincidentally happening in his life the way they're happening in a real story. So Samson tells I'll get back to Delilah in a minute, but he tells the Timnath woman, he says, hey, why did you bring me here this way? And, and he's like, I don't have anything to give him. So Samson says, I'll put out a riddle. Watch this. Is it a coincidence again that Samson tells riddles? Who's the best riddler of them all if it's not Jesus? And here's a riddle that Samson says. He says, I'm going to give you a riddle, and if you can figure it out, I'll give you garments and I'll give you this or whatever. I can break all that down in detail too. The Bible's pretty amazing, but they couldn't get it. So they go tell the woman, right? The one that Samson loves, because the one that he loves understands what he said. It's spiritually, people that God loves, that Jesus loves, they reveal their secrets to them. This is kind of the shadow of what's happened. That's why they come to his, and it's not a coincidence that he says, oh, you only know the answer because you plowed with my heifer. The heifer in the red heifer in the Bible is Jesus. Like right now, they're trying to build the third tabernacle, and they're like, oh, we're going to get the red heifer. Brother, Jesus was the sacrifice, the red heifer. What are you talking about? It's already happened. There's not new things happening. But Amen. He tells the riddle, and he says to them, what is stronger, or what is sweeter than honey and stronger than a lion? This is what he says. And they go talk to the woman. They come back and they go, he says, how does the answer go? Is that the answer? I'm sorry. It's been a while since I read it. Let me find it so I don't jack it up. I think it's in Judges 13. Let me see. Or I think he said, what out of an eater comes forth meat. I think I said it backwards, but I'm going to look it up right now. Let's see.
Honey. Honeycomb.
I just can't remember. I wish I had everything. I wish I had everything memorized, but I do not.
You could.
Marriage.
Hey, Trot.
Yeah. What's up, Rodney? What's going on, man?
Oh man, much blessings. When you were saying the wife, when they said they plowed, he said, you plow with my heifer. I began to see the correlation or the foreshadow. Begin to see how they how do they the people got with Judas to betray Jesus.
Yeah, no, it's the same. It's the same thing, right? Because look,
It's the
what
same
all this
thing.
is, yeah, what all this is coming down to is the only people that hear or better yet, look at Peter when he gestures to John and he goes, "Hey, who is it?" It's very important. It happens throughout the whole thing. How come Peter just didn't ask Jesus? Why is he beckoning to John? Hey, John, what is he talking about? See, the Spirit is the wisdom. The Spirit is the understanding. So the one that's connected to the Spirit, that's the one that's always asked, hey, what's going on right here? It's throughout the whole Bible. The people murmured against Moses and Aaron, and they said, hey, we could talk to God too. Moses said, really? Oh, I'll tell you what. Every one of you, give me your staff. And they made sure that everybody's name was on their staff so they knew whose staff was whose. And in the morning, Aaron's rod budded almonds because he was the high priest, to show everybody it's the high priest right now, not you. Why? Because this is a foreshadow of Christ, Christ who's the high priest, because that's where everything comes from him. And so if Samson's a shadow of Christ, in order to get something out of him, you would have to ask someone that he loves. That's why John said in his own writing, I'm the disciple who Jesus loves. Not because he was special, but because he knew it. And everybody, that's how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to know that you are the one that Jesus loves. You can't speak for anybody else. Say, I don't know about you. I tell people all the time, I'm God's favorite.
He was the only one that, sorry, I had to speak on that. He was the only one that believed before it ever happened that he would be resurrected. Out of all the disciples, he was the only one that had faith it would happen before it ever happened. That's the why it always says the one that he loved.
Yeah, and that's why he writes that, because he's being honest. That he may not know anything else, but he knows one thing, that Jesus loves him. That's what's important. That's what's key, right? So,
and Jesus gives them tells them to here. I leave you my your mother when he's at the cross and he's
Yeah, no, I don't want to digress too much into John. The point I'm getting at is even Peter beckoned to John at one point. Hey, what is he talking about? Instead of him going straight to Jesus himself. Right. So on and on, this goes on, man, where people want an answer and they can't get it. So they go to someone that is receiving from God to get it. So instead of Jesus telling the man the answer, they went and quote unquote plowed with his heifer to get the answer. And he says, well, if you wouldn't have plowed with my heifer. Now, physically, it sounds like that Samson's saying, oh, well, if you wouldn't have, like if he's being rude, right? The carnal mind can make you think some weird things. So it sounds like Samson's being sexist and rude and like, you know, some type of bigotry, right? Because he calls his I call my wife heifer all the time, but she knows what I really mean. Like, I'm not really saying that she's a cow and all them things. She knows I'm talking about the Bible, and she's my better half. And if anybody wants to hurt me or get to me, then they'll get to her. She knows that. I've already explained that to her. Now, there may be people on TikTok that hear me say it. they probably think I'm manifesting demons. But the point is, you know, I understand what's happening. And so I use it in my own life as a joke. And my wife gets that. I'm not calling her a cow, even though we're from Texas and from the country. That's not the point. Again, if Dre was on here, I don't know, man, being sarcastic, you know, like, bro, like I'm not really calling her, you know, and people don't understand that. And I get it. But the point is it's not a coincidence that Samson tells riddles. It's not. Look how many coincidences there would have to be. Samson tells riddles, coincidence. Samson became unalived with the unbelievers. Samson was mocked by these unbelievers. Samson's eyes were taken out, just like it was taken out. You know, I'm going to tell you something. You think just because Adam and Eve's eyes were taken away, that didn't affect God? That didn't affect Jesus? You're missing a huge point. Huge point. These Adam and Eve were one with God. And for anyone to say that they were nothing and it meant nothing, that they lost their spiritual sight, man, I don't know what Bible you're reading. This affected God. This was something that he made. It affected him a lot. And for people to play it off like it ain't a big deal, it's a huge deal. It's not a coincidence that Samson is saying, give me my revenge for my 2 eyes that were taken from me. It's not a coincidence. What?
It hurt him. It cut him emotionally.
Absolutely it did. It was him. It was part of him, man. So he says, let me get to it. We're sitting here. I don't mean to digress. Let me see. Let me get to this part. Let's see. That is Manoah. Okay, that's the father. All right, here it is right here. Okay, but if you declare me, then I will give it to you. All right, so it came to pass on the 7th day that they said to Samson's wife, entice us. All right, 7 days. All right, the city.
The riddle?
Yeah.
It's verse 12.
Okay, and Samson said unto them, I will now put forth the riddle garments, but if you cannot... Okay, put forth the riddle that we may hear it. Okay, 14. And Samson said to them, out of the eater... Okay, now remember, Samson he unalived a lion. Okay? And I'll go over that here in a minute. But he says, out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. So it's very important to understand what honey means in the Bible. If you don't understand what honey means, then you don't understand what came forth from the lion. You just think it's honey. But when they answered, or quote unquote gave the answer to the riddle, they said, what is sweeter than meat and stronger than a lion? But if you pay attention, there's a question mark there. That means the answer to the riddle is a question. So again, the answer to the riddle is, what is sweeter than honey and stronger than a lion?
A lamb.
So my question is, what's the answer if there's a question mark?
The lamb.
Christ. The word.
The lamb.
The word is sweeter. In the book of Revelation, John is told by the angel, he said, eat the scroll. John said, give me the scroll to eat, the Bible. And he says when he ate it, it was sweet as honey in his mouth. So what is sweeter than honey? The word. Who's the word? Christ. What is sweeter than honey and stronger than the lion? Samson being a shadow of Christ. The Bible tells us that Satan is like a lion, seeking who he may devour. So when he came against Samson, it was a shadow of him being defeated by Christ. And it's not a coincidence that after he defeats him, he went and talked to the Timnath woman. On his way back, it says, let me now turn aside so I may see the carcass. That turn aside this is not talking about Samson walking. He just turns his head and he's like, oh, look, there's a lion. There it is over there. Now, physically, that is what happened. But spiritually, turn aside, it goes all the way back to when God says for Israel is a stiff-necked people, meaning they don't know how to turn aside and recognize God. This is why in Ezekiel, in the book of Revelation, it talks about these creatures, and it says, and their eyes are always forward. It talks about them that their face never looks away. You know why? Because they're not stiff-necked. They don't turn aside away from God. Their eyes are always focused on God. Peter was walking on the water, but he began to fail when he turned aside away from Christ. So when Moses saw the burning bush, he said, I will now turn aside to see this great thing, why the bush doesn't burn. So the phrase turn aside has its own meaning in the Bible in its entirety. So when Samson says, I will now turn aside, he's acknowledging God and the defeat of the lion. And because of that, because of him acknowledging God, he received word, spiritual understanding. That's what the honey is. That's why it says he took the honey and he gave it to his mother and father, but he did not tell him where he got it. And people say, oh, well, he didn't tell him. That's disgusting. It's disgusting. It came out of a lion. That's not why he didn't tell him. He didn't tell him where it came from because it wasn't time. Jesus the whole time was the hidden mystery, the secret the whole time. So he gave them the word, but he didn't tell them where he got it. Matter of fact, before Samson is born, his father tells the angel of the Lord that is telling him about Samson, he says, can you tell me your name? So whenever this happens, we can give you tribute. And he tells the father, Manoah, he says, why askest thou my name, knowing that it is secret? So all this being said, the talk about more books, what I just went over, I don't know what the number is, but it's sad. It might even be in the 80 percentile. Don't even see this when they read the Bible, and they still looking for more books to read, and you don't even see this. So when people ask me, what do I think about more books? I almost bust out laughing every time because the more books is not the problem. Your eyesight has not been restored to you. If it was, you would be opening people's eyes to this truth every day. That's why it says on my picture under my photo, it says, I read the Bible 12 to 15 hours a day, and I dug up a treasure I cannot keep to myself. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I don't know any other way to say it than the way I said it right there.
Hey, Chuck.
Yeah.
Now, what it just Holy Spirit just revealing. Just remember when the children of Israel were going to bring Samson to the Philistines, and Samson says, tie me up, and then lead me, but don't you fall on me yourself. Don't try to attack me yourself. Don't try to come at me yourself.
Yeah.
And so Jesus, the children of Israel, the priests, the scribes and Pharisees, they brought Jesus to Pontius Pilate. They brought him to the other people. They didn't do it physically themselves. They brought him. They brought him, and so it's just more of the, as you were saying, the shadow of how the whole story.
Yeah, no, it's what it is. What it is we'll see one part, right? Like, you don't think like, and I'm not talking to you, Rodney. I'm saying to everybody. Do you not understand that God knows how this carnal mind works? It does know.
Right.
And so he doesn't just put one thing in there because we would never believe it. We would never denounce it ever. So he constantly puts it in there to the point where it's like, wait a second. Like, for instance, like the one you brought, because there's several. I mean, I could talk about Samson all day long, but obviously one of them is that he gets bound up, and of course he tells him, but let it not be you. Let it not be you. He keeps telling him, not you. Only if you don't do it. And so when he finally gets presented to the quote unquote Philistines, it was them that that is in charge of him now at this point. Okay. And so that's 1. 2, let me have revenge for my eyes, the eyes that were taken away in the garden. 3, he says, if you take this one thing away from me, I'll be as weak as any other man. So here's another parable within a parable. What was Samson's strength? Does anybody remember?
Holy Spirit.
What made him strong?
Holy Spirit.
Well, I'm saying
His
in the
faith.
carnal story.
His
What's
hair
going on?
was
His hair.
with a female.
His hair.
His hair.
Oh,
Okay.
the
So
Nazarite vow.
when you study hair in a lot of places, you'll notice that hair actually represents faith in the Old Testament. So what do you take away from a man if you want him to be weak?
His faith.
His faith. Okay. So let me say, so when the prophet was getting mocked by the young man and they said, hey, bald head, spiritually, what are these people saying about the prophet?
You're faithless.
Mocking his faith.
Okay, so is it a coincidence that the bear that came out was a female? See, these are the things I'm sitting there telling you, man. How this was not written by a man. The dove that Noah sent out of the ark was a female. Coincidence? Okay, maybe. Or it's just also a coincidence that the bear that came out of the woods that destroyed the boys was a female that said, hey, bald head. And notice what they're mocking. If you don't know that Jesus is faith, then you don't understand the mockery then. You don't understand it.
I love you. I'm going to go. I will sit under your table any day of the week. I want to say anybody that follows me, sit under this man's table anytime you can. Yes, anybody that has ever followed me, has ever been under the sound of my voice, listen to me at all. I can't teach you. He can't teach you. Only the Holy Spirit can, but listen to him. I love you guys. Bye.
Yeah, God bless.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, God bless. Hey, let's see. Some biker. Obviously, I just need to let you.
It's Adam. You can call me Adam. It's fine.
Okay, Adam. I just let you speak just a little bit. You came up here, and then Rodney will speak after you. And I know Jess. Well, I tell you what. If you say Book of Revelation in front of Jess, you about to get it. So I'm just letting you know that right now. I think there was something she wanted to say.
Okay, so in the Book of Revelation, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I would,
when he said about the
brother,
when he said
to
about
you,
the
I would love to
seven
sit down
churches,
with you sometime, not on a live, of course. That would just get too confusing and bring confusion, but I would love to sit down with you sometime and go and talk about it. I would love to listen to you about that.
About what?
But yeah, I'm not going to bring that up on here because you're right. That's all it does is cause confusion.
You're talking about Book of Revelation?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
I would
Lord
love
have
to
mercy. Maybe. I'll just say
like
maybe
I said,
for right
like
now.
at a different time on maybe on a Skype or something like that, but not publicly. That's just too much. It's just going to bring drama. I agree on that point. And it's not important at this point.
Yeah.
What is important is exactly what you're doing. The body needs to be fed. Y'all stay out of these debates. The one thing I was going to say is stay out of these debates. They're not edifying.
Amen.
They are not edifying the body of Christ. It is one thing it's one thing to have like one-on-ones with people, and I love how everyone in here has muted their mics and the host controls this room very well. And these other lives that you see, that Satan causes debate. Okay, Satan is the author of debate. Because the author of debate breeds doubt and confusion. And doubt and confusion will grow like bamboo. That's all I got to say. I love you guys. And may Christ.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, Rodney, I know you still wanted to say something. Or not. You there? Okay, he ain't there right now. But Steve, you got something to say, Steven?
No, I'm actually I had a bathroom emergency, so I'm still listening.
Well, I appreciate everybody. If you didn't catch that, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no. So it's just again the issue is not. Yeah.
Hey, what? Forgive me, I don't remember, but what is the significance of the female bear, the female dove?
Yeah. So in the all over in the Bible, especially it's in the Psalms and the Proverbs, it talks about wisdom, and it says to seek her as silver. It calls wisdom a her. Now you got to understand, man. There is a lot of words in the Bible. So if you're not someone who is, if you're not someone who has gotten very familiar with the Bible, then you're not going to pick up the gender there. You won't pick up on it, only because you haven't put the time in for, hey, there's people that are smarter, man. I know people that have a photographic memory, bro. Like, they can read the Bible 2-3 times and almost have the whole thing memorized. Some of these people make money at carnivals. If you ain't seen it, go YouTube it. There are people, they say, tell me any address in the Bible. So you could say 1 Corinthians 2:4, and they'll repeat the whole thing to you. There are people that have memorized the Bible, okay? So and I'm saying in a short period of time. I'm not saying a long time either. But what I'm saying is there's also other things that will come to your mind if you can understand, like, the way that Jesus authored this. So he calls wisdom a her. The question has to be asked. Now, before, when I first started reading this, I would not have seen that as significant at all. Not even a little bit. It wouldn't have been significant at all to me. What does it matter that it's a female? But what's funny is, because God knows how we think, he puts the little significant thing in there, because the person who has a heart will ask the question, why? Why a female? Why didn't he just leave that alone? He could have made it male. He could have made it female. He could have not gave it a gender. He could have just said, and seek wisdom, for wisdom is da-da-da-da, and not even said her. He said, he could have said, seek wisdom like silver, but he didn't. He said, seek her like silver. But in context, he's talking about wisdom. You know exactly what he's saying. But when you start getting familiar with the Bible, you'll say, wait a minute. The dove that Noah sent out, it says that she found no place to rest the sole of her foot. And your carnal mind will make you believe it's trying to teach you the gender, that it just so happened the dove was a female. No, it's wisdom. Remember, he sent it out to see if the waters abated. He needed God's wisdom. But the wisdom is a characteristic of the Spirit. That's why the dove represents the Spirit.
Yeah, that's why the donkey was a female, right? And the ant.
Exactly. That's why
study her ways, seek after the Spirit.
Yeah, that's why Balaam's donkey was a female. It was wisdom that was speaking to Balaam. The Bible tells us that horses and donkeys don't have understanding. That's what the Bible tells us. They don't have understanding. So with your carnal mind, when you see a donkey speaking, you can make the mistake and think that it's the actual donkey using its brain and speaking wisdom to Balaam. No, it said the Spirit of the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey. And it proves that it was the Spirit by making sure that the donkey was a female. Again. So we're just going to keep saying that this stuff is coincidences. That the donkey was a female. The dove was a female. That wisdom, seek her as silver, female. The she-bear came out and destroyed the boys that were mocking the bald man. Mocking he has no hair. Faith is hair. What?
What is there more to that I'm not seeing, as far as like the bear being spiritual wisdom, attacking the boys? What am I not seeing? Like the fact that wisdom attacked mockery, or what? Can you tie that together for me?
Well, actually, it's actually simple. No, the spirit and flesh are enmity. That word enmity literally means hate. That's all it's showing you. That the flesh is mocking the spiritual things, which is this prophet, the bald-headed prophet. That he's being mocked by the flesh. And remember, the flesh part of us is the part of us that is of the fallen world. And the spirit unalived the flesh, the sin in Christ. Jesus' flesh was unalived.
Wow.
It's very simple, I'm telling you. It is very simple. It's our carnal mind that doesn't understand. It's not that it's hard. It's just that it is very good at mocking what you're trying to believe. It is very good at it. Very good. But that's what I'm saying. You have to get so familiar with these stories that it'll come together. That's why the Bible says, seek you first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto it. Your perspective of the Bible will change all on its own. It'll change because the truth will come alive for what it is. And then I hate to say this part, and you're certain things you're going to want to laugh at. But again, I try to tell people all the time, you're not laughing at what the person is doing. You're laughing at the enmity, because you'll start clearly seeing where the problem actually is. And so when you laugh, you don't feel bad anymore, because you're not laughing at the person. You're laughing at the thing that used to hinder you from seeing. So we mock the flesh just like the flesh mocks the spirit. We went over Elijah when Elijah
too, because Jesus came for the lost, and we're gonna reach less people if we mock them.
Well, I'm saying again, I'm talking about how naturally the spirit mocks the flesh naturally. Okay, let me show you what I mean. So when Elijah unalived the 450 prophets, no one's going to sit here and tell me that Elijah was not mocking what they were doing. The way that they believed God was by their flesh. And so he said, hey, why don't you scream louder and wake them up? First of all, Elisha knows that that's not how you speak to God. He knows that. So why would he say that if he wasn't mocking them? You have to understand, Elijah is not mocking the person. He's mocking the belly. And so when we see people being unalived in the Old Testament, you're missing it. This is just not about God, like just unaliving people. It's not about that. Did they really become unalived? Yes. Yes, 100% they did. But people have to understand the option for them to be born again was not there. Christ physically was not there. And so people see the New Testament, they see what's happening today, and they're trying to make sense. Well, then what's the deal with, I mean, people will say that the Old Testament God that we see is Satan because of all the unaliving. And they're like, oh, well, it was Satan. It's like, bro, no, Jesus was not an option. Now, for the Jews, it was, okay? It was. But for the rest of the people that were there, I don't think people realize what was happening in the Old Testament. There were, my Lord, man, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but not everybody, I'm not going to go there. Let me just say this. Let me just make it real simple. Just to keep it simple, look, Christ had not became unalive and resurrected yet, okay? That is the difference. If you don't understand that that's the difference, there's no way that anybody's going to be able to help you with that, because I'm not going down all the rabbit holes on why every little thing was happening. It's a lot, but I just to keep it simple, Christ had not unalived and become resurrected. That is so simple. Now that he has, now people are confused on like if God was the good God, right? In the Old Testament, they're like, well, then he's schizophrenic, right? Because in the Old Testament, he's unaliving everybody, and now he's not unaliving everybody all the time. There's one argument. The other argument is in the Old Testament, he's unaliving, and then today he still unalives. Oh, this becomes the other side. Right, like all the people that became unalived in Louisiana because of that big flood, right? Because of the hurricane, they say, "Oh, that was God. That was God unaliving people." Oh my Lord. Oh man, let me just make myself clear on this part, okay? If God is unaliving people like he was in the Old Testament, he would have to apologize to Jesus. It makes no sense. Okay, that is not true. That is not what's happening. We're under a new covenant. Jesus is the mediator. He's alive. We're not waiting for the mediator to come. We're not waiting for the Messiah to come. That's just ridiculous nonsense. It's not true. If you want to believe that, hey, guess what? You go right ahead. I'm not going to argue with you about it. I promise. I'm not going down that way. But, hey, Rodney, you back yet? I tried to holler at you a while ago. You weren't here.
Oh, my internet was going in and out.
Ah, yeah.
Man, oh, glory to God. When a lot of us, a lot of people, um, when it comes down to understanding the Word of God, well, God, when somebody comes to me and sometimes I'm praying for somebody or counseling or something like that, sometimes just depending on the time, but sometimes the most important thing is to debunk, to attack the false narrative or the false thought that a person has about themselves or about God or about the word of God or whatever faith that's not the faith of God that they have, that they're holding on to. And so
Yeah.
if a person is holding on to the belly, that flesh, it's what Jesus was saying. It's what the Word of God was saying when they're drinking the old wine. Wow, drinking an old wine, and you're drinking it so much that you prefer it over the new wine. Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Jesus, I have this new wine for you. This new wine. Will you drink it? Will you taste and see? Taste and then see, period, or dot, 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 and see. And then when you're seeing, get your eyes back. Ha, 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 try. Get your eyes back
Yep.
when you're tasting and seeing that God, taste and see. When you see, when your eyes are opened, now, Jesus talked in parable to his disciples. We said it's not for them to see right now.
Yeah.
That's why I talk in parables. It's not for them to see.
Yeah. And let me
It's for
let
you
me
to
add
see.
this. Yeah.
Come
Let
on.
me add this. Yeah. Let me add this to it. So here's another thing. Remember, this is clearly seen in the Old Testament, but just to get to the part where at least someone can see it, does the disciples ask Jesus, "Hey, why do you talk to them in parables?" And he says to them in one of the areas, he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "Well, do you understand what I'm saying?" And they go, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay." So to them, it's parables. When you pay attention to what Jesus is saying, I'm just being myself. It's their fault. They don't understand. So when we say that Jesus is talking in parables, what's really being said is Jesus is not trying to talk in parables. That's what I'm saying. He's not trying to. It's us that can't comprehend what he is saying. So whenever the fall happened, we became spiritually blind, spiritually deaf, spiritually dumb. In the Old Testament, many times Jesus is talking about statues, and he's talking about people too. He said, "For they have eyes, but they see not. For they have ears, but they hear not. Mouths, they speak not. Legs, they don't walk." When Jesus tells someone, "Pick up your bed and walk," this is the shodding of the feet. Walking is, he says, "How beautiful are their feet who preach or bring the gospel of peace." How beautiful are their feet. So when a person is spiritually resurrected, they don't just spiritually look. We're not just supposed to have only our spiritual eyes open. We're supposed to have our spiritual ears open. Our mouths are supposed to speak the word. Before, you couldn't speak the word. Now you should be able to. Our feet now bring the gospel of peace. So take up your bed and walk is not about just a physical man receiving his physical legs back. It's about him preaching the gospel. That's what it's about. It says the eyes will be open, ears will be, and the dumb will speak. This is not trying to teach us that someone that cannot speak in this world can now talk about going to go eat at Texas Roadhouse tonight. Now he can say it with his mouth. That's not what the speaking is talking about. It's talking about someone that never read the Bible, is not known for talking about Jesus, and out of nowhere, he can't shut up about him. That's what it's talking about. because his eyes have been opened. His ear, he can hear now. Talking about the real us, the part of us that was taken away from Eden. Paul the Apostle was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He knew that Old Testament like the back of his hand. How come he couldn't see what we're discussing today? What was hindering him? And then he meets Jesus on the road to Damascus. He goes to the desert for years to do what? To now read the Bible with his open eyes, because he's already read it with his carnal mind for years. But it's when Ananias prayed for him, it said that like scales fell from his eyes. The scales is described to us very clearly in Leviathan, that his scales are his pride. Our carnal mind is what makes us prideful, and we don't want to receive the truth. You know why? Because we've understood it for 20 years carnally. And now, because of pride, we want to fight. Because watch this. Paul the Apostle, when you talk about carnally understanding the word, he knew it. Can you imagine how hard it is for someone who's under the law like Paul, who knows for a fact what it is saying, black letters on a white page, he knows what it's saying. You know how hard it was for him to admit that that is not the way we were supposed to be reading that the whole time. But that's all we had. But now my eyes are open, and Lord, now I want to see. I want to see what I was supposed to be seeing, but I couldn't see because of my carnal mind. I want to see. That is a hard thing to admit, that your carnal mind lied to you for 20 years or more. For anyone to say that that's not hard, you're not being honest. That is hard. There are people today that I'll talk to, and they hate what I'm saying. They hate it because they have to admit that they ain't been seeing something for 20 years. And it is not easy. It is not easy at all. And I get it. I understand.
His identity, Trot.
Yeah.
His identity. His identity was under the curse.
Right.
It's not just so much of what he studied. He made the unaliving part of the law up. It was into his belly. He ate the unaliving part, because the letter unalives, the spirit gives life. That part, which was in the inner lining, when he was eating it, it began to become who he was, and so who he is, as far as in being Saul. The Saul, some people, as you're saying so eloquently, so great, man of God, as some people, because they can't see themselves past the way they are, because their identity is like, man, I know this to be true, and they govern themselves, or they pattern their whole life, their whole belief system off of, I know the Bible says it this way. And then when you say, hey, look, that doesn't mean that.
Yeah, and let me say something on that. Yeah, let me say something on it. So in Paul's understanding, okay, he was under the law. Now he's coming out from under the law. Today the problem is culture. Okay, and I'm not talking about skin color culture. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the old Christianity culture, that this means this means that. And not that everybody's under the law or not. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying a lot of people are held back because they've been taught something. And I'll give you one verse in the New Testament that I've learned that a lot of people just don't understand. And there's actually two of them. And it's all based on just stuff being, I'm talking about Christianity culture, okay? Christian culture, not skin color, because people of all colors say this. But I'm just giving an example of how culture can hold you back from a truth, because it's something that you've been teaching for 10 years. And then when someone tells you something different, rather than, you know, spiritually discerning what they're saying, you just carnally reject it. So Jesus tells a parable of a woman, and he says that there's an unjust judge. And he said that this woman is asking for justice. And to make a long story short, he says, but because of her much beckoning, because he kept saying, get this lady out of here. But because of her much beckoning, the king said, the unjust judge said, hey, just give her whatever she wants. Jesus also said, he said, which one of you have a friend that if you went to his house at midnight and asked him for bread and your friend said, hey, me and my family are asleep, go away. But because of you constantly, knocking on his door and constantly staying there, basically, being a gnat in his hair, he's like, oh my God, just go in there and take all the bread you need, bro. Leave us alone. And for the longest, people have taught that this was a comparison on how we're supposed to treat God, that you have to ask and ask and ask and beg. And I'm like, the only thing that would make you believe that about these two things that these parables that Jesus is bringing up is your carnal mind. Your spirit, if you listen to what he's saying spiritually, you would understand these are not comparisons. These are contrast. It's the complete opposite. Notice the words that Jesus uses. Remember, Jesus is the author of this whole thing. And so he said that this was an unjust God. Jesus makes it clear that God is just. So if God is a just God, why is it? What is telling us that this unjust God is God? If it's not your carnal mind. So what he's saying is that if an unjust God, and I'm going to use words, I'm going to say it in a way that everybody gets it. If this foolish, no good for nothing man can still give somebody something if they constantly bug him, what makes you think that I'm like that? He's a complete opposite. You don't have to beg him. Matter of fact, the Bible says that we were his enemy before we were saved. So if we were his enemy before we were saved, and now you're saved, now we're in a saved state, why in the world would you think that you have to ask and beg something when he gave you everything before you were able to beg? Makes no sense whatsoever. And so the other one, he starts it off. Listen, this is God telling the story. So the words that he's using are 100% important. He called the other person an unjust God. God is not unjust. Therefore, that's not God. It's a complete opposite. And then he says, which one of you have a friend? It's so funny. Everybody is so used to having loser friends, they actually think that God's talking about you and your loser friends. That's not what he's saying. He's using the word friend. He said, which one of you have a friend? Meaning that this guy's not a good friend. I can go to any of my friends' house, and if I say, hey, can I come in? Bro, they're going to open their door and walk away and go back to bed. They're going to let me go grab whatever I want. They're not going to tell me, oh, man, hey, you can't come in my house. What kind of friend is that? And because of our carnal mind, that we have to beg, plead for God, that's how you're going to read it. Because your carnal mind only understands what it understands. But these two things are not comparisons. They're contrast. They're complete different. So this is what I mean by culture will teach, and a lot of people still teach this, that you have to beg and plead with God. And when you see it that way, man, wrong teaching will lead you to wrong living every time. But right teaching will lead you to right living. If I ever went to someone's house, and you know how some of the, today, you have the living room and the kitchen is kind of like one big room, kind of. But if I ever went to a friend's house and I seen one of their kids, from the living room sprinting to the kitchen because mom or dad's in the kitchen. But when they get to that line, it's like an imaginary line. You really can't tell like where the kitchen and where the, it's kind of. But if they were to get to that line and fall on their knees and they're like, Mom, can I please have something to eat? I'm going to call CPS. Every time, bro. Something is wrong with that. And that is how people today treat God. Instead of just walking in the kitchen and getting something to eat, I need to beg God and plead for something's wrong. And that's the problem, is the carnal mind. It doesn't recognize God as the one that loves us. It recognizes that we have to be good so God can love us. And it's a lie. It's not true. And so, what time is it? Man, I can't believe y'all got me going till 11 o'clock. Jeez, man. Y'all plowing with my heifer over here. God almighty. Yeah, anyway, hey, man, I hope today was a blessing. I mean, it was for me. I was able to stay on longer. I still probably got 20, 30 minutes, but I really need to get some things done. But I appreciate everybody being here. Aaron, is there anything you need to say before we roll?
No, man, today was a blessing, man. I appreciate the teaching. Thanks for your time, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Jess, you got anything? Jess sleeping.
Trot,
Yeah, Steven, what's up?
I just want to say thank you, brother,
I'm
for
good, bro.
what you do and your message and your understanding. And I thank God for you, putting you in my life, because it's always a feeding when I come to your live. I always learn something. I'm always, my eyes are always opened every time. So I love you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. God bless. Yeah, no worries. Well, I'll see y'all in the morning. Rodney, you got anything to say before we bounce? Rodney probably ain't there. Oh, he keeps saying he has issues with it. Well, either way, Rodney, hey man, God bless you. We'll always love to have you up. Jordan, what'd you say? You guys running it back this evening? I'm not sure. I'm going to find out. I'm hoping to find out in an hour or two. Because we're going to start it. We're going to start doing 2-a-days, right? So, don't forget the name of the show's Descaled. If you have a friend that is blind, and you know what kind of blind I'm talking about, spiritual blind, and you care for them as a friend, and you want their eyes to be open, you might want to bring them over here, right? And as a group, we will get their eyes open together in Jesus' name, not in our own name, but in his name. Everybody's eyes need to be open. He's already paid the price, and it is us that need to do exactly. He said, believers in me, these signs shall follow them. And I'm not going to go through all of them and get through a debate and argue what they all mean, but I will say this. They will open the blind eyes. And I'm telling you right now, if you have a friend that you care for, love, admire, whatever, I don't care if it's an enemy, just send them the link. We'll get their eyes to be open, and we can swim around in this living water together, right? So, yeah, Jordan, that was a good question. I don't know, man. We will, I'll try to figure out within the next hour or so, and if so, we'll throw a video up, hoping that everyone sees it. But either way, God bless. See y'all in the morning.
See you, Trot.